Chapter 825. Chu Feng knew that he couldn't just sit there and wait for his death. He had no choice but to attack one of the disciples. He had to break through the encirclement of the disciples. Otherwise, he would be in a passive position. Since he wanted to break through, Chu Feng had to find a weaker disciple. After all, the weaker the disciple, the easier it would be to deal with them. Therefore, Chu Feng's target was Wang Kai. Bastard, it's you. Of course, Chu Feng still remembered that he had almost put himself in danger because he wanted to kill Wang Kai. Bang! This time, Chu Feng's attack finally collided with Wang Kai's attack. Of course, Wang Kai's strength was not worth mentioning in front of Chu Feng's strength. Wang Kai was sent flying like a kite with a broken string. Wang Kai's internal organs were in turmoil. He spat out a mouthful of blood. Brother Chu Feng is mighty. Brother Chu Feng is mighty. Brother Chu Feng is mighty. Brother Chu Feng, kill him. Brother Chu Feng, kill him. Brother Chu Feng, kill him. Long live Brother Chu Feng. Chu Feng. At this moment, the disciples of Tianyuan Academy were still worried about Chu Feng. However, when they saw Chu Feng display his strength and severely injure Wang Kai, they immediately shouted excitedly. Ha ha ha! In front of absolute strength, everything is nothing. What's the use of teamwork? He's still a dead dog now. That's why strength is the most important thing. At this moment, the elders of Tianyuan Academy were looking at Yi Hao in a provocative manner. Wang Kai. Seeing that Wang Kai was seriously injured, the head of the Wang family immediately shouted. After all, Wang Kai was a disciple of the Wang family. Although the rest of the family heads didn't say anything, they were all nervous at this moment. When Chu Feng saw Wang Kai flying, a cold smile appeared on his face. Just as he was about to follow up with another attack, his heart suddenly tightened. At this moment, the disciples who were originally standing beside Wang Kai suddenly changed their direction of attack and attacked Chu Feng. Bang! Chu Feng's weapon immediately swept to the side and collided with two disciples. The two disciples simultaneously took a few steps back. On the other side, the attacks of several disciples fell on Chu Feng's body. Although Chu Feng tried his best to dodge to the side, there were still 3 or 4 wounds on his body. Hiss! I'm going to kill you. The pain on his body immediately made Chu Feng suck in a breath of cold air, but the anger of being injured made him roar in anger. Chu Feng's reaction was very fast. He counterattacked the person behind him. Just as Chu Feng attacked the person behind him, the rest of the disciples immediately attacked Chu Feng. Chu Feng was clearly at a loss for what to do from this series of attacks. But Chu Feng's strength was also incomparably valiant. After a few exchanges, 3 or 4 disciples had already suffered varying degrees of injuries. However, in the eyes of everyone, this was already very shocking. After all, it was already very impressive for a group of devil emperors to injure a devil venerable. Furthermore, only 3 or 4 disciples were injured. Furthermore, these 3 or 4 were outer court disciples. Initially, everyone thought that the outer disciples of the First Academy would not be able to retaliate against Chu Feng. However, the inner and outer sect disciples of the First Academy had performed exceptionally well and valiantly. In this way, it was difficult for everyone to see who would win and who would lose in a short period of time. On the other hand, Chu Feng and the many disciples were fighting back and forth nonstop. Although many disciples were defeated continuously, the disciples did not show the slightest bit of panic. Their cooperation was still very tacit. Although Chu Feng was a devil venerable, he was not feeling well at this moment. There were more than 10 wounds of various sizes on his body. At this moment, Chu Feng's luxurious clothes had become tattered and covered with blood. At this moment, Chu Feng also looked battered and exhausted. At this moment, Chu Feng's face was ferocious. He originally thought that he could kill the disciples of the First Academy, but he did not expect the outcome to be like this. The disciples of the First Academy were much more powerful than he had imagined. Moreover, their tacit understanding was also unbearable. This was because when he was about to defeat a disciple, several disciples would attack him from all directions. Although he could defend against most of the disciples' attacks, there would always be some that he could not take care of. Moreover, Chu Feng realized that if he continued to fight like this, his physical strength would become more and more depleted. If this continued, it would not be good for him. Look at Chu Feng's attacks. They are not as fierce as before. I have to admire the First Academy. Not only are their disciples powerful, but their tacit understanding is also so strong. No matter what this time, the First Academy should be famous in the Tianyuan kingdom. Hook, we should use all our strength. At this moment, a disciple suddenly said to Hook, "What? Could it be that they were still hiding their strength?" When the onlookers heard the disciple's words, their jaws almost dropped. After all, in their opinion, it was already very good that the disciples of the First Academy could fight with Chu Feng like this. If they were to say that the disciples of the First Academy were still hiding their strength and did not use all their strength previously, it would be too shocking. In fact, it was indeed so. Hook and that disciple were the only devil emperors at the peak of their cultivation. With their supreme aptitude, they could absolutely crush any martial artist of the same level. They could even fight against a first-level devil venerable. However, that was only if the opponent was an expert with inferior or middle aptitude. Chu Feng's aptitude was indeed not bad. He was of superior aptitude, so it was not that easy to deal with him. Therefore, Hook and that disciple hid their strength for the sake of being conservative. They waited until Chu Feng's strength was depleted before they attacked and defeated Chu Feng. In their opinion, it was almost time, so they did not want to hide anymore. "Junior brothers, step back first. Leave the rest to us," Hook said to the disciples of the First Academy. The disciples also knew the strength of Hook and that disciple, so they trusted them very much and immediately stepped aside. "Ha! Just two devil emperors at the peak, and you think you are so great. Since you are courting death, I will fulfill your wish." Seeing the other disciples step aside, and only Hook and that disciple were left, Chu Feng immediately mocked them. This was because he did not care about the strength of the disciples of the First Academy at all. The only thing he was afraid of was the strong cooperation between the disciples of the First Academy. Chapter 826. You'll know who's courting death soon. Hook snorted after hearing Chu Feng's words. It had to be known that after 3 months, although these 20 disciples weren't blood brothers, they were blood brothers. The bond between them was already very strong. But now, 6 or 7 of them were injured by Chu Feng. Among them, Wang Kai was seriously injured. How could they not be angry? Therefore, at this very moment, the 2 of them were going to return all of this. The 2 of them looked at each other and attacked Chu Feng. They used martial arts at the same time. Good timing. Seeing the 2 of them rushing up, Chu Feng shouted excitedly. Then, he also used martial arts to attack. Boom! The 3 of them collided violently. Everyone was watching this scene attentively. How is this possible? Chu Feng suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated several meters continuously. At this moment, Chu Feng's face was full of horror, because through the battle just now, he suddenly found that the overall strength of Hook and Wang Kai was really above him. After all, he had just broken through to Demon Venerable not long ago. He knew best about the strength of Peak Demon Emperor. Based on his understanding of Peak Demon Emperor, even 4 Peak Demon Emperors couldn't defeat a first-level Demon Venerable. But the 2 in front of him did it. How could he not be shocked? What was more shocking was the onlookers. At this moment, many people exclaimed. The 2 of them really hid their strength just now. Even if he's hiding his strength, this Peak Devil Emperor is really too strong. He actually managed to injure Chu Feng. Given the strength of the 2 of them, they should be able to crush any other Peak Demon Emperor. What's going on with this First Academy? Why is it so unexpected every time? Demon Emperor versus Demon Venerable. Today is an eye-opener for us. And Hook and Wang Kai, seeing Chu Feng injured, naturally wouldn't let it go easily. The 2 of them didn't stop and continued to attack Chu Feng. Chu Feng looked at the 2 of them with a strong, murderous intent in his eyes, but there was also a trace of fear. Because if he couldn't wait to kill Hook and Wang Kai immediately. But after seeing the strength of the two of them just now, Chu Feng couldn't help but feel a little guilty. However, in front of so many people, he had already made a bold statement. He could not back down so easily. Chu Feng clenched his teeth and steeled his heart. He once again rushed forward. 9 clouds slash. Chu Feng shouted and immediately used his strongest martial technique. The 9 clouds slash had a total of 9 slashes. Each slash carried a huge amount of power, and the power of each slash was stronger than the previous one. The power of the 9-sword strike was even greater than the sum of all the previous strikes. This 9-cloud slash was Chu Feng's famous consummate skill. It was also his life-saving trump card. Chu Feng wouldn't use it lightly. Although the 9-cloud slash was powerful, it also consumed a lot of energy. At the same time, there was a fatal problem that only Chu Feng knew. That was the 9-cloud chop. The first few moves were still fine. However, when it came to the final chop, the 9-cloud chop would become a martial technique that would injure the enemy by 1,000 and the user by 800. Therefore, the 9-cloud slash was extremely powerful, but the side effects were unknown. Moreover, when the 9-cloud slash was used, it could also reduce one's cultivation. However, at this very moment, he had no choice but to use the 9-cloud slash. Moreover, he had to use his strongest move. Because if he didn't use his strongest move, he probably wouldn't be able to defeat Hook and the others today. Moreover, he would suffer a crushing defeat. In front of so many people, he absolutely couldn't allow himself to be defeated. Therefore, even if there was a danger of his cultivation falling, he had to use the 9-cloud slash. After all, if his cultivation fell, he could still recover it if he cultivated diligently. However, if he lost all his face here today, it would be very difficult to recover it. Moreover, he had seen a 9-cloud slash before and had fought against many experts above his level. Therefore, he was confident that he could use the 9-clouds slash to kill Hook and the others. Phew. So this is senior brother Chu Feng's 9-cloud slash. It looks so powerful. I didn't expect that those two demon emperors would actually force senior brother Chu Feng to use the 9-cloud slash. Now that senior brother Chu has used the 9-cloud slash, I reckon those two will be defeated. No one has ever been able to survive senior brother Chu Feng's 9-cloud slash. Those two were able to force senior brother Chu Feng to use the 9-cloud slash. They have already died a worthy death. It's an eye-opener to see senior brother Chu Feng use the 9-clouds slash today. At this moment, the disciples of Tianyuan Academy were all amazed when they saw Chu Feng use the 9-cloud slash. Because Chu Feng was the #1 genius of Tianyuan Academy. Naturally, many people of Tianyuan Academy had heard of Chu Feng's martial skills. Although the onlookers hadn't seen the 9-cloud slash, they knew that the 9-cloud slash was extraordinary and abnormally powerful when they saw the power of the 9-cloud slash. I didn't expect Chu Feng to have such a powerful martial skill. This time, it seems that the disciples of Tianyuan Academy may be defeated. I think so too. After all, although those demon emperors are strong, Chu Feng is a demon venerable. Now that he has such a powerful martial skill, it will be difficult for those two to win. The dean of Tianyuan Academy listened to the discussions of the crowd and frowned. Because others didn't know, but he knew the side effects of the 9-cloud slash. If Chu Feng used the 9-cloud slash now, his strength would very likely drop to the Demon Emperor realm. What was even more serious was that Chu Feng's talents might fall because of this. Why did he know this? It was because he was the one who gave Chu Feng the 9-cloud slash. Even he didn't dare to deny the power of the 9-cloud slash. But at the same time, the side effects of the 9-cloud slash were also huge. At this moment, he saw Chu Feng use the 9-cloud slash. It was very likely that after Chu Feng defeated those two, the genius Chu Feng would officially fall. However, the dean of Tianyuan Academy didn't stop it. In his opinion, nothing could compare to the dignity of Tianyuan Academy. If Tianyuan Academy lost today, the dignity of Tianyuan Academy would be lost forever. As for the genius disciples, he could just find and nurture them again. If Chu Feng knew what the dean of Tianyuan Academy was thinking at this moment, he would definitely vomit blood in anger. Because the dean of Tianyuan Academy didn't tell him that using the 9 clouds / would damage one's talent. The dean of Tianyuan Academy only told him that using the 9 clouds / might reduce one's cultivation. If he knew that it would damage one's talent, he probably wouldn't do it even if he was beaten to death. After all, talent was more important than cultivation. Chapter 827. Quickly kill him. Seeing the power of the 9 clouds / Hook knew that it couldn't be underestimated. He immediately said to the disciple beside him. Like Hook, the Peak Demon Emperor disciple also knew that Chu Feng's 9 clouds / was extraordinary. Both of them attacked Chu Feng at the same time. Both of them used their full speed to attack Chu Feng. Both of their attacks landed on Chu Feng's body first. Chu Feng's 9 clouds / was just a hair's breadth away from being used. However, it was interrupted by the two at this moment. No, I can't accept this. Chu Feng roared unwillingly as he was sent flying. Hook and the other didn't give Chu Feng the slightest chance to react. They continued to attack Chu Feng. At this moment, Chu Feng's martial technique was interrupted and he was continuously attacked by the two. He could only barely resist their attacks. At this moment, Hook and the other didn't dare to hold back. They unleashed their full strength. Under their continuous attacks, Chu Feng was surrounded by danger. This is too strong. Seeing the two's continuous attacks forcibly interrupt Chu Feng's 9 clouds / the onlookers were shocked speechless. Originally, they thought that Chu Feng's 9 clouds / a powerful martial technique, would be able to kill Hook and the other with absolute power. However, they never expected that Hook and the other one would do something beyond their expectations. They actually forcibly interrupted Chu Feng's martial technique. One had to know that it wasn't impossible to interrupt a martial technique. However, it was easier said than done to interrupt a martial technique with a higher cultivation and such a powerful martial technique. Only those with a higher cultivation than Chu Feng could do it. However, Hook and the other one's cultivation was obviously lower than Chu Feng's, yet they could interrupt Chu Feng's martial technique. How could they not be shocked? The onlookers saw that Chu Feng was continuously retreating. He didn't even have a chance to fight back. At this moment, Chu Feng was several times more miserable than before. Bang! At this moment, a loud sound was heard. It turned out that Hook's weapon and Chu Feng's weapon collided violently once again. Hook retreated several steps, his face flushed red. However, Chu Feng was even more miserable. His entire body turned into a parabola as he was sent flying dozens of meters away. He directly crashed into the crowd. The crowd immediately opened up a path for him in panic. He almost smashed into the ground, causing the ground to crack and dust to rise. At this moment, everyone turned their gazes to Chu Feng. At this moment, Chu Feng's entire body was in rags and was covered in blood and dust. His entire body was like a pile of mud as he lay limp on the ground. At this moment, Chu Feng's gaze actually became somewhat blurry and unfocused. He looked incomparably sluggish. At this moment, who would still be able to connect Chu Feng with the number 1 genius of the Tianyuan Academy? Everyone knew that Chu Feng was finished. The number 1 genius of Tianyuan Academy was probably going to be wasted from now on. Hook and the others all had wounds on their bodies as they clasped hands and bowed to Yi Hao. Dean, we were fortunate to have accomplished our mission. Yi Hao looked at the crowd. Although they had won, he could tell that they had put in a lot of effort. At this moment, everyone seemed to have exhausted more than half of their strength. Everyone's eyes were filled with exhaustion. It could be seen that they had won with great difficulty. However, the joy in their eyes could not be hidden. After all, they had defeated the number 1 genius of Tianyuan Academy in front of so many people. Furthermore, he was a demon venerable expert. This had greatly increased their reputation. From the eyes of many people, they could see the reverence in those people's eyes. All right, this is over. Dean Yi, let's begin the inner disciples competition. Just when everyone was still shocked by Chu Feng's defeat, the dean of Tianyuan Academy suddenly spoke. Wow, Hearing the dean of Tianyuan Academy's words, everyone was instantly stunned. They looked at the dean in confusion. Wasn't the competition over? The outer disciples had cheated and were defeated. Now, even a number one genius of the academy had been defeated. Did they not feel that they had lost enough face? What was the point of continuing the competition? What do you mean? Yi Hao's eyes darkened when he heard the dean of Tianyuan Academy's words. He asked coldly, "The outer disciples' competition is over. Isn't it time for the inner disciples' competition?" The dean of Tianyuan Academy continued with a smile. At this moment, the dean of Tianyuan Academy was at his wit's end. After all, he could not admit defeat to Yi Hao and bow down to Yi Hao. Why is there still a competition? Didn't Chu Feng's competition just now? The head of Wang family immediately stood out and questioned the dean of Tianyuan Academy. After all, the inner disciples of Tianyuan Academy were already exhausted. If they were to be challenged again, it would be difficult for them to win. No one had expected the dean of Tianyuan Academy to be so shameless. He actually used such a move. Chu Feng wanted to challenge them. He doesn't represent Tianyuan Academy. The dean of Tianyuan Academy said shamelessly. What does that mean? Chu Feng's challenge doesn't count? I didn't expect the dean of Tianyuan Academy to be like this. Chu Feng lost. Now that the disciples of Tianyuan Academy are exhausted, he actually challenged them again. The onlookers couldn't help but whisper when they heard the dean of Tianyuan Academy. Chu Feng doesn't represent Tianyuan Academy? Then why didn't you say so in the beginning? The head of Wang family asked unhappily. You didn't ask. Moreover, we agreed from the beginning that the inner and outer disciples of Tianyuan Academy and Tianyuan Academy would send out 10 disciples to battle. Isn't that right? The dean of Tianyuan Academy asked with a smile on his face. The head of Wang family was so angry that he was speechless after hearing the dean of Tianyuan Academy's unreasonable words. Ha ha ha. Yi Hao suddenly looked up to the sky and laughed. Seeing Yi Hao laughing, the dean of Tianyuan Academy frowned and looked at Yi Hao. What are you laughing at? I'm laughing at the dean of Tianyuan Academy for being such a shameless old dog. Since the dean of Tianyuan Academy was so shameless, Yi Hao naturally wouldn't give him any face and directly scolded him. The dean of Tianyuan Academy heard that Yi Hao dared to scold him in front of so many people. He was instantly enraged, and the aura of a demon emperor was released from his body. What? As the dean of Tianyuan Academy, are you going to get angry out of humiliation and attack me? Yi Hao couldn't help but sneer when he sensed the killing intent from the dean of Tianyuan Academy. The dean of Tianyuan Academy narrowed his eyes and looked at Yi Hao. His eyes were filled with cold, killing intent as he forcefully resisted the urge to kill Yi Hao. It wasn't that he couldn't kill Yi Hao. However, there were so many people here. If he rashly killed Yi Hao, Tianyuan Academy would go down in history and infamy. Chapter 828. Your request? What do you want? The dean of Tianyuan Academy thought that Yi Hao would continue to refuse, and he would have a way to cancel the competition. As long as the competition was canceled, the bet from before would no longer count. However, he did not expect that Yi Hao would agree to it all of a sudden. Then I will challenge the 9 of them. Yi Hao looked at the 9 people in the arena and said, What? You want to challenge them? Hearing Yi Hao's words, the dean of Tianyuan Academy was stunned. Then he sneered and said, Are you kidding me? With his cultivation, it was not difficult for him to see that Yi Hao was only a level 1 demon emperor. However, the 9 inner disciples of Tianyuan Academy were all level 5 demon emperors and above. If they challenged Yi Hao, there would only be one outcome. Yi Hao would be tortured to death. He was afraid that he had misheard. How could Yi Hao say such words? At this moment, the 9 disciples on the stage all revealed a cold smile on their faces. Although Yi Hao's status was equal to that of the dean of Tianyuan Academy, this was a world where the strong were respected. No matter how powerful Yi Hao's status was, his cultivation was trash. They would not take him seriously. After the challenge, if I win, Tianyuan Academy will submit to me, Yi Hao said, staring at the dean of Tianyuan Academy. Okay, let's do as you say. Let's start. The dean of Tianyuan Academy agreed immediately, as if he was afraid that Yi Hao would go back on his words. Because as far as he was concerned, Yi Hao was simply courting death. Since Yi Hao was courting death, then why should he stop him? Wait a moment. For the sake of the spectators, why don't we test each other's strength again? Just as Yi Hao was about to step onto the stage, the Tianyuan Academy's headmaster suddenly extended his hand to stop him. When Yi Hao saw the expression on the Tianyuan Academy's dean's face, he could naturally guess what the Tianyuan Academy dean was thinking. In fact, the dean of Tianyuan Academy was just being cautious. He was afraid that Yi Hao would use some special means to hide his strength. But in front of the testing stone, no one could hide. However, if Yi Hao was really a first-order Devil Emperor, he would be able to humiliate Yi Hao. After all, Yi Hao had revealed his cultivation level in front of so many people. How ridiculous would it be if the deans of these academies were only first-order Devil Emperors? All right, Yi Hao readily agreed to the test. Regardless of what the Tianyuan Academy's headmaster was thinking, as long as he defeated the Tianyuan Academy's disciple in the end, the Tianyuan Academy's thoughts would be useless. What is going on? Why is the principal of the First Academy challenging an inner disciple of the Tianyuan Academy? I wonder how powerful the headmaster of the First Academy is. He looks so young. Is he trying to test his strength? Let's wait and see. Everyone was puzzled by Yi Hao's sudden challenge to the Tianyuan Academy's inner disciples. However, everyone was more concerned about Yi Hao's true strength. After all, Yi Hao looked so young, and he was already the dean of the First Academy. If this had happened before, everyone would have looked down on the First Academy. However, the series of events that had happened today had completely changed everyone's view of the First Academy. At this moment, the First Academy was an important existence in everyone's eyes. After all, everyone had witnessed the strength of the First Academy's disciples. Even their disciples were so powerful. Hence, everyone was looking forward to seeing Yi Hao's strength. Headmaster Yi, please. The Tianyuan Academy's dean pointed at the testing stone and sneered at Yi Hao. Yi Hao looked at the testing stone and walked directly into the arena. At this moment, everyone was focused on Yi Hao in the arena. They were looking forward to seeing Yi Hao's strength. Headmaster Yi, just place your hand on the testing stone and let it inject your strength into it. The elder of the Tianyuan Academy said to Yi Hao with a tinge of fear in his voice. After all, Yi Hao was someone who did not even give face to the dean of the Tianyuan Academy. He was just an elder, and he did not dare to offend Yi Hao. If he accidentally offended Yi Hao, and Yi Hao did something out of line, he would lose more than he gained. Yi Hao glanced at the elder and injected a bit of his energy into the testing stone. Everyone looked at the testing stone with anticipation. They were so nervous that they could hear their own heartbeats. The most nervous person was the dean of the Tianyuan Academy. However, no one noticed that even the princess in the sedan had stood up and looked at the testing stone. Boom! Just as Yi Hao placed his hand on the testing stone suddenly lit up. How? How is this possible? Everyone stared at the testing stone in shock. Their faces were filled with disbelief. Am I seeing things? Level 1 Demon Emperor? It can't be. How can the dean of the First Academy only be a level 1 Demon Emperor? The testing stone can't be wrong. I didn't expect the dean of the First Academy to be a level 1 Demon Emperor. This is ridiculous. At this moment, the shock on the faces of countless onlookers slowly turned into mockery. After all, Yi Hao had become the dean of the First Academy at such a young age. It could be said that countless people were envious of Yi Hao's status. However, after seeing Yi Hao's strength, they would not let go of this opportunity to mock Yi Hao. Haha, Headmaster Yi is indeed talented. You have reached the peak of the Demon Emperor at such a young age. Your future is limitless. Seeing the pitiful star that lit up on the testing stone, the dean of the Tianyuan Academy said immediately. Everyone could tell that the dean of the Tianyuan Academy was mocking Yi Hao. Even the elder beside the testing stone was speechless when he saw the testing stone. He did not expect Yi Hao to be a level 1 Demon Emperor. He wanted to mock Yi Hao, but he realized that he did not dare to say anything when he met Yi Hao's eyes. At this moment, Yi Hao was very calm about his own strength. After all, only he knew that he could fight against a level 1 demon venerable, even though he was only a level 1 demon emperor. Haha, I didn't expect the dean of the First Academy to be so powerful. At this moment, a disciple of the Tianyuan Academy walked up to the arena and sneered. The disciple looked at Yi Hao provocatively and then placed his hand on the testing stone. Boom! 6 lights lit up, indicating that the disciple's strength was a level 6 demon emperor. Headmaster Yi, please show mercy later. After the disciple finished the test, he looked at Yi Hao mockingly. Chapter 829. Normally, a disciple who dared to provoke Yi Hao was courting death. However, when the crowd looked at Yi Hao's cultivation and the disciple's cultivation, they couldn't help but shake their heads. Obviously, they were more optimistic about the disciple's strength. After all, there was a huge gap between a level 1 demon emperor and a level 8 demon emperor. Even if Yi Hao was talented and could fight against those of a higher level, it was impossible for him to fight against a level 6 demon emperor. Senior brother, don't say that. Be careful of Dean Ye's anger. Another disciple walked up to the arena and said sarcastically, Haha, junior brother is right. I hope Dean Yi will be merciful later. The disciple who had finished the test immediately laughed. However, everyone could see that the 2 disciples were echoing each other, and their tone was full of contempt for Yi Hao. If you dare to talk nonsense again, I don't mind killing you now. Yi Hao looked at the 2 disciples calmly, but his tone was full of killing intent. You? The 2 disciples looked at Yi Hao and wanted to say something. However, when they saw Yi Hao's cold eyes, a trace of fear appeared in their hearts. The 2 disciples did not dare to say anything. Soon, one of the disciples reacted and said, Haha, I am looking forward to Dean Yi killing me, but I hope it will be in the arena. When the disciple thought of Yi Hao's strength, he couldn't help but sneer. Yi Hao ignored the disciple and walked to the arena. He stopped talking. After all, there was no point in talking nonsense with someone who was about to die. Son of A.B. *TCH, how dare a level 1 demon emperor be so arrogant? I will teach you a lesson later. When the disciple saw that Yi Hao had ignored him, he couldn't help but feel angry. Subsequently, the remaining disciples of Tianyuan Academy also finished the test of their strength. The strength of the inner disciples of Tianyuan Academy was quite good. The weakest one was a level 5 demon emperor, while the strongest one was a level 8 demon emperor. According to this, their strength was considered good. However, compared to the inner disciples of First Academy, they were still slightly inferior. However, to the crowd, none of this was important. That was because they were all looking forward to the upcoming competition. However, in the eyes of the crowd, there was basically no suspense in the following battles. After all, the gap between the 2 sides was too big. However, everyone was still looking forward to it. After all, no matter what, Yi Hao was the principal of the First Academy. Even if it was just to watch Yi Hao get tortured, it was still worth watching. After all, he was the headmaster of an academy. If he was defeated by a disciple from another academy, it would definitely be very interesting. Dean, I don't think we should do that. Why don't we have so many people? After all, Dean Ye's strength is really, a disciple said respectfully to the Tianyuan Academy. At the same time, he looked at Yi Hao with disdain. Impudent. Principal Yi wants to challenge all of you. Are you looking down on Principal Yi? Tianyuan Academy's principal deliberately raised his voice, but there was no hint of blame in his tone. Seeing that the people from the Tianyuan Academy actually dared to look down on Yi Hao, the disciples of the First Academy, including the family heads of the Rain Domain, all looked at the 9 disciples of the Tianyuan Academy with pity. After all, they had seen Yi Hao's strength. This was because Wang Kai and the rest knew that even if the 20 of them used all their strength, they would not be able to defeat Yi Hao. Since the 9 disciples of the Tianyuan Academy dared to be so arrogant and look down on Yi Hao, they knew what would happen to them. In that case, let's play with Principal Yi. Ha ha ha! The 9 disciples of the Tianyuan Academy rushed into the arena with disdainful looks. What do you think? Principal Yi, Why don't you admit defeat now? The disciple who had started the fight said arrogantly as he looked at Yi Hao. Senior brother, why are you talking nonsense with him? Just kill him. That's right. Kill him and wash away the shame of the Tianyuan Academy. A mere level 1 demon emperor dares to challenge us. He really doesn't know how to spell the word death. Senior brother, kill him. The remaining 8 disciples were shouting at the same time. All right, junior brothers, don't attack first. Let's see how senior brother humiliates him. Han Qing licked his lips. Son of a bitch, lie down. Han Qing didn't take Yi Hao seriously at all. Therefore, he didn't even bother to take out his weapon. Instead, he threw a punch at Yi Hao. He wanted to defeat Yi Hao with absolute strength, because as long as he defeated Yi Hao, he would become famous all over the world. After all, Yi Hao was the principal of the First Academy. Moreover, the #1 genius, Chu Feng, had fallen. This was an opportunity for him. As long as he humiliated Yi Hao well, he would avenge the principal of the Tianyuan Academy. At that time, his status would be greatly improved. The other 8 disciples stood aside and watched with smiles on their faces when they saw Han Qing attacking. After all, Han Qing was the most powerful one among them at the moment. In their opinion, it would be a piece of cake for Han Qing to defeat Yi Hao. Yi Hao looked at the arrogant Han Qing, clenched his fist, and threw a punch at his face. Yi Hao didn't react much. This was because he didn't need to take a mere Han Qing seriously. When Han Qing saw that Yi Hao didn't react, the sneer on his face became even more pronounced. Die! Han Qing roared. Just as Han Qing's fist was about to land on Yi Hao's head, Yi Hao suddenly moved. Yi Hao didn't dodge. He threw a punch at Han Qing. Crack! The sound of bones cracking could be heard, and Han Qing's entire body was directly sent flying. Wind steps. The moment Yi Hao hit Han Qing, his figure flashed, and he attacked the remaining 8 disciples of the Tianyuan Academy. The remaining 8 disciples saw Han Qing flying. Before they could react, Yi Hao was already in front of them. Bang! 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 Yi Hao threw 8 punches in a row. Each punch contained 100% of his strength. 8 consecutive collisions were heard, and 8 figures were sent flying. The moment the 8 disciples were sent flying, Han Qing landed on the ground. A bunch of trash. Yi Hao looked at the 9 figures on the ground. All 9 of them were unconscious. Only he knew that even if these 9 disciples weren't dead, they would be crippled. It was impossible for them to stand up again. Kid, you are vicious. Seeing the 9 disciples on the ground, the dean of the Tianyuan Academy was enraged. He quickly went forward to check. He discovered that all the disciples' internal organs had been shattered. There was no way for them to recover. First, Chu Feng was crippled. Now, 9 more people were crippled. This was a huge blow to the Tianyuan Academy. I'm sorry. I didn't control my strength well, Yi Hao said. He didn't look apologetic at all. After all, these disciples had dared to be arrogant in front of him. Since they dared to be arrogant, they naturally had to pay the price for their arrogance. Chapter 830. You finally want to fight. Yi Hao sneered when he saw that the dean of the Tianyuan Academy was about to attack. Huangzhong, come out! Yi Hao shouted. Huangzhong had completed the mission of the Array Elixir sect and was rewarded with the summoning quota by the system. Yi Hao did not expect that Huangzhong would be summoned. Stop it! Before Huangzhong could come out, the princess shouted. However, the dean of the Tianyuan Academy acted as if he did not hear the princess and continued to attack Yi Hao. How dare you disobey my order? Do you want to betray the Tianyuan kingdom? The princess said angrily when she saw that the dean of the Tianyuan Academy did not listen to her. Humph! The dean of the Tianyuan Academy snorted. Everyone was shocked by the actions of the Tianyuan Academy's headmaster. What does the dean of the Tianyuan Academy mean? He doesn't even listen to the princess. It seems that the dean of the Tianyuan Academy is angry. That's right. Today, the Tianyuan Academy was humiliated by the First Academy. If it were me, I would be angry. I just didn't expect Dean Yi to be so powerful. Yes, Dean Yi is just a level 1 demon emperor. I still don't understand how he defeated the 9 disciples. This is unbelievable. However, the testing stone can't be fake. Many people were shocked that the dean of the Tianyuan Academy was so angry that he disregarded the princess's order and attacked. However, what was more shocking and puzzling was Yi Hao's strength. After all, Yi Hao's strength had been tested by the testing stone, and they had seen it with their own eyes. He was just a level 1 Demon Emperor warrior. As for the 9 disciples of the Tianyuan Academy, any one of them was much stronger than Yi Hao. However, no matter how they looked at it, Yi Hao was bound to lose. However, the result was beyond their expectations. Before they could react, the 9 disciples of the Tianyuan Academy had been sent flying. Moreover, he was now lying on the stage, and no one knew if he was dead or injured. One had to know that in the ancient demon domain, ranks were extremely strict. The difference between each small rank was extremely huge. Of course, there were also quite a few geniuses who could surpass this gap and kill enemies of a higher level. However, those were at most 1, 2, or 3 levels higher. That was already very heaven-defying. But no one was like Yi Hao, who was able to jump so many levels at once, and against so many people at that. Furthermore, he was able to kill everyone in an instant without giving them any chance to fight back. At this moment, Yi Hao is simply a celestial being in everyone's eyes. However, many of the onlookers looked at Yi Hao with pity and mockery when they saw the Tianyuan Academy's dean make a move, because many people were jealous of Yi Hao from the bottom of their hearts. After all, no matter how the first academy was in the limelight, it would only increase Yi Hao's prestige. Hence, it was inevitable that Yi Hao would be envied. Now that the Tianyuan Academy's dean had made a move, no one was optimistic about Yi Hao, because everyone knew that the Tianyuan Academy's dean was extremely powerful. In the Tianyuan Kingdom, he was considered a top expert, and his strength was at the 5th Order Demon Emperor. At this moment, everyone felt the powerful aura coming from the Tianyuan Academy's dean, and their eyes were filled with fear and admiration. Probably no one present could stop the Tianyuan Academy's dean. Oh no, I didn't expect this old thing to fly into a rage out of humiliation. What should we do? We are definitely not a match for the Demon Emperor. I don't care. Even if we have to fight to the death, we must save the Lord. At this moment, when the Rain Domain's family heads saw the Tianyuan Academy's dean make a move, they discussed anxiously. Brat, if you want to blame someone, blame yourself for going too far. You don't know how to restrain yourself. Today will be your death anniversary. The Tianyuan Academy's dean's attack was about to land on Yi Hao. What should we do? I didn't expect this old man to dare to disobey my orders now. The princess looked at Yi Hao anxiously. At this moment, she couldn't help but regret not bringing some experts with her. If she had brought some experts, she wouldn't be in such a passive situation. She wouldn't be in such a state. Just being anxious was useless. Old thing, don't you dare harm my lord. At this moment, a voice rang out. Swoosh! An arrow shot out of nowhere, heading straight for the Tianyuan Academy's dean. As for the Tianyuan Academy's dean, just as his attack was about to land, he suddenly panicked. He had a feeling that if the arrow continued to land in his hands, he wouldn't be able to escape this calamity. The Tianyuan Academy's dean retracted his hand in panic and dodged to the side. Boom! The arrow sank into the ground, and a black hole as thick as a finger appeared where the Tianyuan Academy's dean had been. The black hole was bottomless. Where did this expert come from? Looking at the black hole, the Tianyuan Academy's dean was shocked. His face was filled with horror. Although the arrow had sunk into the ground, the Tianyuan Academy's dean shuddered when he recalled the aura of the arrow. Who is it? None of them had expected that a powerhouse would actually appear along the way. Just looking at the Tianyuan Academy's dean's flustered appearance, everyone knew that Huangzhong's strength was extraordinary. Huangzhong, kill him! Yi Hao directly ordered Huangzhong. Yi Hao knew very well that Huangzhong hadn't used his full strength just now. After all, Huangzhong's strength was at the peak of the Demon Emperor realm. Dealing with a 5th Order Demon Emperor was an easy task. Yes. After hearing Yi Hao's order, Huangzhong immediately attacked the Tianyuan Academy's dean. Senior, who are you? I have no enmity with you. Seeing Huangzhong's powerful aura, the Tianyuan Academy's dean asked fearfully. He still couldn't believe that a demon emperor realm expert would listen to Yi Hao's orders. However, Huang Zhong only listened to Yi Hao's orders. Why would he waste time talking nonsense with him? Huang Zhong would only listen to Yi Hao and kill him. Damn it! Seeing that Huang Zhong ignored him, the Tianyuan Academy's dean couldn't help but curse. He immediately turned around and ran. What a joke! After all, he had lived for more than half of his life. How could he not know the principle of running if he couldn't win? One had to know that Huang Zhong's aura was simply too powerful. Otherwise, even if he had the slightest hope of winning against Huang Zhong, he wouldn't run. Instead, he would fight Huang Zhong with all his might. Chapter 831. How strong is this person? Even the dean of the Tianyuan Academy doesn't dare to fight with him. This is too scary. Could it be another demon emperor? Why haven't I heard of him before? From the appearance of the Heavenly Yuan Academy's headmaster, I can tell that this person is much stronger than him. Otherwise, it would be impossible for the Heavenly Yuan Academy's headmaster to act like this. When the crowd saw that the dean of the Tianyuan Academy was running for his life, they were shocked. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. When the dean of the Tianyuan Academy was running away, Huang Zhong didn't chase after him. Instead, he drew his bow and aimed at the back of the dean. What's the meaning of this? Could it be that he can hit him? Are you kidding me? The dean of the Tianyuan Academy is a fifth-order demon emperor. How could he hit him? If he really hit him, it means that this person is too scary. At this moment, everyone was looking at Huang Zhong. Surprisingly, he wasn't chasing after them. Instead, he was standing where he was, knocking his bow and drawing an arrow. Bastard, one day I will flatten the First Academy. The dean of the Tianyuan Academy saw that Huang Zhong wasn't chasing after him. Swoosh! Before the dean of the Tianyuan Academy could finish his sentence, a sharp sound pierced through the air. Everyone only saw Huang Zhong's arrow leaving the bow, but they didn't see how Huang Zhong shot the arrow. Everyone immediately looked in the direction of the dean of the Tianyuan Academy. But what stunned everyone was that they didn't see any arrows. Could it be that the arrow missed? Everyone was puzzled. You? At this moment, the dean of the Tianyuan Academy, who was running away, suddenly turned around slowly. Everyone was taken aback when they finished looking at it. The reason for that was because at that moment, the arrow had completely pierced into the Heavenly Yuan Academy's headmaster's neck. Because of the angle, the crowd couldn't see the arrow. However, they could see clearly that the arrow was hanging in the dean's neck. The sharp arrow was still dripping with blood. The dean of the Tianyuan Academy was holding his neck with all his might. His face was filled with unwillingness. Plop! With a plop, the dean of the Tianyuan Academy fell to the ground. Dead. The famous dean of Tianyuan Academy was killed by a single arrow. A dignified demon emperor powerhouse actually didn't even have the chance to retaliate and was killed. At this moment, everyone felt as if they were dreaming. Their faces were filled with shock. The air seemed to have stopped, and one could even hear everyone's breathing. Everyone's gazes were focused on the headmaster's corpse and Huang Zhong's body. Everyone looked at Huang Zhong with fear on their faces. After all, he was an existence that could kill demon emperors. Even the elders and disciples of Tianyuan Academy did not dare to say a word as they looked at the headmaster's corpse. So strong. At this moment, the princess looked at Huang Zhong. Her eyes were shining as she murmured. At this moment, the princess seemed to have seen a glimmer of hope. She looked at Yi Hao and asked, "Where did he come from?" Of course, the princess could tell that Huang Zhong was Yi Hao's subordinate. After all, Huang Zhong had addressed Yi Hao as lord, and Huang Zhong had also killed the headmaster under Yi Hao's orders. Great. Young Master Ye's subordinates are really talented. Suddenly, the princess spoke, breaking the silence. "Oh, Your Highness, the headmaster of Tianyuan Academy is from your Tianyuan kingdom. Aren't you angry that I killed him?" Yi Hao looked at the princess and felt that it was very strange. This was because the princess had been speaking up for him from the beginning. Even when the headmaster of Tianyuan Academy wanted to kill him, the princess had spoken up to stop him. In Yi Hao's opinion, this was very strange. After all, he knew that he had no relationship with the Tianyuan kingdom. The only relationship they had had was that he had attacked the Rain domain and turned it into his own force. If it was because of this matter, then she should be looking for trouble with him, not helping him. Young master, ye helped me kill a person who dared to disobey my orders. I should be thanking young master ye. How would I dare to blame young master ye? The princess said with a smile. Yi Hao really didn't expect the princess to say this. But Yi Hao wasn't so naive to think that the princess's words were true. He knew that the princess must have something to do with this. After all, the headmaster of Tianyuan Academy was a fifth-order demon emperor expert. In the Tianyuan kingdom, he was a rare existence. Moreover, the Tianyuan Academy's headmaster's prestige wasn't low. Even the Tianyuan kingdom had to treat him with respect. If he killed him just because he didn't listen to the princess's orders, then this demon venerable was simply worthless in the Tianyuan kingdom. Moreover, even if he was killed, it should be the Tianyuan kingdom that did it. It shouldn't be an outsider's turn to do it. According to common sense, even if the Tianyuan Academy's headmaster was in the wrong, killing him would be a disgrace to the Tianyuan kingdom. The Tianyuan kingdom shouldn't let him off. But Yi Hao heard the princess's tone and didn't have the slightest intention of blaming him. And it wasn't just Yi Hao. At this moment, all the onlookers were stunned, because they didn't expect the princess to say such a thing. Because the princess's attitude made everyone feel that it was inconceivable. After all, everyone knew that the Tianyuan Academy's headmaster was backed by the royal family. But now that the Tianyuan Academy's headmaster was killed, the princess's attitude was unexpectedly like this. She didn't even want to avenge the Tianyuan Academy's headmaster. Instead, she stood on Yi Hao's side. This made everyone unable to figure out what exactly the princess was up to. Do you think the princess has taken a liking to Headmaster Yi? Now that you mention it, I think it's possible. It's said that the princess is talented and intelligent. She's also a peerless beauty, but she's always been single. If she really has taken a liking to Headmaster Yi, don't talk nonsense. If the princess hears it, you won't be able to bear the consequences. At this moment, many onlookers started to make guesses. Do you think the princess really has taken a liking to the Lord? Do you remember that when the princess first appeared, she seemed to be biased towards the Lord? Now that you mention it, there really is such a thing. Moreover, even the Tianyuan Academy's headmaster was killed. It's fine if the princess doesn't blame him, but she actually thanked the Lord. What else can this mean? Chapter 832. At this moment, the faces of the patriarchs under Yi Hao were also filled with shock. Have we met somewhere before? Yi Hao knew that he had not been in the ancient demon's realm for long and had not met any women. Moreover, he had not been to Tianyuan Kingdom before. It was impossible for him to have met the princess. However, the strange thing was that he felt a sense of familiarity when he saw the princess. It seems that Mr. Yi is indeed forgetful. The princess chuckled. Have we really met before? Yi Hao looked at the princess even more curiously after hearing her words. Mr. Yi, this is not a good place to talk. Let's go somewhere else. The princess said softly to Yi Hao. All right. Yi Hao looked around. There were too many people, and it was not a good place to talk. But Yi Hao looked at Tianyuan Academy. He could not help but worry that Tianyuan Academy would fight with First Academy after he left. People of Tianyuan Academy, listen up. Before I return, anyone who dares to cause trouble will be killed. The princess said coldly to the elders of Tianyuan Academy. After speaking, the dean of Tianyuan Academy looked at Yi Hao and said, Mr. Yi, you can rest assured now. Yes. Yi Hao nodded and followed behind the princess. The two of them did not bring anyone with them and walked directly into Tianyuan Academy. At this moment, many young talents were looking at Yi Hao's back view with envy and jealousy. The princess was also a student of Tianyuan Academy. Apart from her looks, her status as the princess was sought after by many people. Moreover, many young talents from the Tianyuan Kingdom joined the Tianyuan Academy in order to get in touch with the princess first. After all, if they could get close to the princess, they would definitely have a meteoric rise. However, when they saw the princess and Yi Hao leaving together, they were filled with jealousy and hatred. Yi Hao followed behind the princess. When he saw the princess's back view, he immediately moved. "Oh, what are you doing?" The princess was obviously stunned. She looked at Yi Hao in shock and strangled her neck. "Tell me, what do you want?" Yi Hao looked at the princess without any emotion in his eyes and asked coldly, "Don't you know how to take care of women?" The princess stomped her feet in anger at Yi Hao. "Pity the fairer sex? I really don't know how to show mercy to people who harbor ill intentions." Yi Hao is not an animal who thought with his lower body. If the princess was really up to no good, Yi Hao wouldn't mind destroying her. Let me go first," the princess said angrily. She looked at Yi Hao's expression and felt that he might really kill her. When the princess thought of the countless young men who saw her, they would all try to curry favor with her. Even Chu Feng, the proud son of heaven, the genius whose name resounded throughout the Tianyuan Academy, had never looked him in the eye. But Yi Hao, not only did she take the initiative to befriend him, he didn't even appreciate her kindness, and even looked like he was going to kill her. When Yi Hao heard the princess's words, he let go of her. When he grabbed the princess just now, he knew that the princess was definitely no match for him. "Look at who I am." The princess took off the veil on her face angrily. "It's you? You are the princess," Yi Hao exclaimed when he saw the princess. This was because the person in front of him was none other than Zhao Ling, the girl who wanted to barbecue meat for him in the magic beast forest. But later on, he used a magical beast to get rid of her. Yi Hao never expected Zhao Ling, to be the princess of the Tianyuan kingdom. "I also didn't expect you to be the famous mysterious principal of the First Academy, the mysterious person who defeated the Rain Domain." When Zhao Ling, saw that Yi Hao recognized her, she rolled her eyes at Yi Hao. But she spoke the truth. She really didn't expect that Yi Hao, who she thought was just a servant, would be the principal of the First Academy. Yi Hao had defeated the Rain Domain, established the academy in a high-profile manner, and even challenged the Tianyuan Academy. It was impossible for the royal family not to pay attention to Yi Hao. But the royal family had sent many people to the Rain Domain to investigate, but no one was able to find out Yi Hao's identity. Even though she was a princess, she was still very curious about Yi Hao. But she would never have expected Yi Hao to be so young, and the two of them had even met before. Most importantly, she had previously misunderstood Yi Hao as a servant. But when Zhao Ling saw Yi Hao, her stomach couldn't help but growl, because the meat that Yi Hao barbecued was simply too delicious. She finished all the barbecued meat that Yi Hao had barbecued for her in just a few meals. She had thought that she would have no chance with that delicious food for the rest of her life. She didn't expect to meet Yi Hao again. "Why are you looking for me?" Although Yi Hao knew Zhao Ling, Yi Hao knew that he wasn't familiar with Zhao Ling, "Of course I am looking for you for something important," Zhao Ling, said immediately when she heard Yi Hao's question. "Something important?" Yi Hao looked at Zhao Ling, even more puzzled. "Do you want the Tianyuan Academy?" Zhao Ling asked. "What do you mean?" Yi Hao was even more confused when he heard Zhao Ling's words. But he was indeed very envious of the Tianyuan Academy. An academy was a place to nurture talents. The average strength of the Tianyuan Academy was only stronger than that of the First Academy. After all, the Tianyuan Academy had existed for so long. Its rich heritage was incomparable to that of the First Academy. If Yi Hao could obtain the Tianyuan Academy and merge it with the First Academy, the strength of the two academies would increase tremendously. After all, the disciples of the Tianyuan Academy were all talented. With some nurturing, they would become a powerful fighting force. Therefore, Yi Hao believed that many people would be eyeing the Tianyuan Academy now that the dean of the Tianyuan Academy had been killed. But the Tianyuan Academy was backed by the royal family of the Tianyuan Kingdom. Although the dean of the Tianyuan Academy was dead, how could the Tianyuan Kingdom let go of the Tianyuan Academy so easily? But Zhao Ling was a member of the royal family. Zhao Ling must have his own reasons for saying such words. "If you want the Tianyuan Academy, I can make you the dean of the Tianyuan Academy. The entire Tianyuan Academy will belong to you," Zhao Ling said. Chapter 833. As long as you do me a favor, Tianyuan Academy will be yours. Zhao Ling met Yi Hao's gaze and promised. Oh, you're just a princess. I don't think you have the authority to make decisions in such a big Tianyuan academy, Yi Hao said with a cold smile. Zhao Ling wasn't angry at Yi Hao's words. As long as you do me a favor, Tianyuan Academy will be yours. I'm curious. What kind of favor would make you put in so much effort? Yi Hao asked curiously. The prince consort of the Tianyuan kingdom. Zhao Ling stared at Yi Hao. Ahem, what did you say? Yi Hao immediately coughed awkwardly when he heard Zhao Ling's words. Don't misunderstand. As long as you become the prince consort of the Tianyuan kingdom and help me obtain the throne, I will agree to any request you have. Zhao Ling was afraid that Yi Hao would misunderstand, so she quickly explained. Yi Hao was even more confused when he heard Zhao Ling's words. What does your obtaining the throne have to do with whether I become the prince consort or not? Moreover, doesn't the Tianyuan kingdom have a prince? In this world, the power of the royal family would fall into the hands of a man. Therefore, the throne would be passed down to a prince or a crown prince, and not to a princess. This was because if the throne was passed down to a princess and the princess married someone else, the throne might fall into the hands of an outsider. Therefore, in many countries, it was taboo for a princess to fight for the throne. Of course, there were also countries that had no choice but to pass the throne to a princess because they didn't have a prince. However, such cases were extremely rare. That's right. My father had a total of 4 children. Among them, the crown prince was the only boy. However, he suddenly died 2 years ago. Now, he is only left with 3 daughters. After listening to Zhao Ling's explanation, Yi Hao roughly understood what was going on. It turned out that the current Emperor Tianyuan only had 4 children in his life. His first child was a boy, and the other 3 were all girls. Therefore, the first boy naturally became the crown prince. If there were no accidents in the future, he would ascend to the throne of the emperor. However, an accident happened. 2 years ago, the crown prince of the Tianyuan kingdom suddenly died. But no matter what, they couldn't find out the reason for the crown prince's sudden death. And now, Emperor Tianyuan's health was deteriorating day by day, and it was time to appoint a new successor. However, Emperor Tianyuan only had 3 daughters left. He had no choice but to choose an heir from his 3 daughters. However, Emperor Tianyuan had a request. His 3 daughters had to find their other halves before they could participate in the fight for the throne. Zhao Ling was the youngest of the 3 daughters, and her 2 elder sisters had already found their candidates. She was the only one who hadn't been found yet. She still had 1 month left. If she couldn't find a prince consort, she would lose the fight for the throne. However, Zhao Ling knew her 2 elder sisters well. If her 2 elder sisters really succeeded the throne, the Tianyuan kingdom would be destroyed sooner or later. Most importantly, she had discovered some clues about the crown prince's death in the past 2 years. These clues indicated that it was very likely that her 2 elder sisters were the ones who had poisoned the crown prince. When Zhao Ling came to this conclusion, it was as if she had heard a bolt from the blue. Therefore, she had no choice but to be careful and vigilant against her 2 elder sisters' evil schemes. Her vigilance was indeed correct. Thanks, Ju-chun. Thanks, Ju-chun. Sorry to trouble you, Ju-chun. As long as you do me a favor, the Tianyuan Academy will be yours, Zhao Ling promised as she met Yi Hao's gaze. Oh, you're just a princess. I don't think you have the authority to make decisions in such a big Tianyuan Academy, Yi Hao said with a cold smile. Zhao Ling wasn't angry at Yi Hao's words. As long as you do me a favor, the Tianyuan Academy will be yours. I'm curious. What kind of favor would make you put in so much effort? Yi Hao asked curiously. The prince consort of the Tianyuan kingdom. Zhao Ling said as she stared at Yi Hao. Ahem, what did you say? Yi Hao immediately coughed awkwardly when he heard Zhao Ling's words. Don't misunderstand. As long as you become the prince consort of the Tianyuan kingdom and help me obtain the throne, I'll agree to any request you have, Zhao Ling quickly explained, afraid that Yi Hao would misunderstand. Yi Hao was even more confused when he heard Zhao Ling's words. What does your obtaining the throne have to do with whether I become the prince consort or not? Moreover, doesn't the Tianyuan kingdom have a prince? In this world, the power of the royal family would fall into the hands of a man. Therefore, the throne of the royal family would be passed down to a prince or crown prince. It would never be passed down to a princess. This was because if the throne was passed down to a princess and the princess married someone else, the throne might fall into the hands of an outsider. Therefore, in many countries, it was absolutely taboo for a princess to fight for the throne. Of course, there were also countries that had no choice but to pass the throne to a princess because they didn't have a prince. However, such cases were extremely rare. That's right. My father had a total of 4 children. Among them, the crown prince was the only boy. However, he suddenly died 2 years ago. Now, he only has 3 daughters left. After listening to Zhao Ling's explanation, Yi Hao roughly understood what was going on. It turned out that the current Emperor Tianyuan only had 4 children in his life. The first child was a boy, and the other 3 were all girls. Therefore, the first boy naturally became the crown prince. If there were no accidents in the future, he would ascend the throne. However, an accident happened. Just 2 years ago, the crown prince of the Tianyuan kingdom suddenly died. However, no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't find out the reason for the crown prince's sudden death. Now, Emperor Tianyuan's health was deteriorating day by day. It was time for him to choose a new heir. However, Emperor Tianyuan only had 3 daughters left. He had no choice but to choose a successor from among the 3 daughters. However, Emperor Tianyuan had a request. That was, the 3 daughters had to find a partner before they could participate in the fight for the throne. Zhao Ling was the youngest among the 3 daughters. As for the 2 older sisters, they had already found a candidate. She was the only one who hadn't found one yet. She still had 1 month left. If she couldn't find a prince consort, she would lose the fight for the throne. However, Zhao Ling knew the nature of her 2 older sisters. If the throne was really inherited by her 2 older sisters, the Tianyuan kingdom would be destroyed sooner or later. Most importantly, she had found some clues about the crown prince's death in the past 2 years. These clues indicated that it was very likely that her 2 older sisters were the ones who poisoned the crown prince. When Zhao Ling came to this conclusion, it was as if she had heard a bolt from the blue. Therefore, she had to be careful and vigilant against her 2 older sisters. Chapter 834. Bai Yuner had been diligently cultivating at the Tianyuan Academy. It was only after the challenge was over that Bai Yuner received the news. However, she heard that the challenger was actually someone from the Rain Domain. Furthermore, the dean's surname was Yi, and he was a young man. Therefore, Bai Yuner guessed that this person might be Yi Hao. However, Bai Yuner wasn't sure. Therefore, Bai Yuner hurried over to see if the dean of the first academy was Yi Hao. However, she had never expected to run into Yi Hao on her way here. Even though she had only seen Yi Hao's back, Bai Yuner could recognize at a glance that this was the person she had been thinking about day and night. However, when Bai Yuner saw Zhao Linger in Yi Hao's arms, she was instantly stunned. She frowned slightly and looked aggrieved. Yuner. Yi Hao couldn't help but feel delighted when he heard Bai Yuner's voice. After all, he hadn't seen Bai Yuner for a few months. In his heart, he still missed Bai Yuner very much. When Zhao Linger heard Bai Yuner's voice, she immediately left Yi Hao's arms and quickly wrapped the scarf around her face. Young Master Yi, who is this younger sister? Why don't you introduce us to each other? Zhao Linger spoke first. This is Bai Yuner. This is the princess of the Tianyuan kingdom, Zhao Linger. Yi Hao immediately introduced the 2 of them. Hello, younger sister Yuner. You can call me elder sister Linger in the future. Zhao Linger walked over to Bai Yuner and naturally grabbed Bai Yuner's hand as she spoke. However, Bai Yuner looked at Zhao Linger in surprise. You are the princess of the Tianyuan kingdom. What princess? We are sisters in the future. Zhao Linger looked at the innocent Bai Yuner and said in a pleasant voice, How would I dare? Bai Yuner quickly shook her head like a rattle drum. Why wouldn't I dare? Isn't the princess also human? It just so happens that I don't have a friend. Zhao Linger said this with a wry smile on her face. You're Mr. Ye's girlfriend, right? Zhao Ling was not stupid. She had clearly caught the hint of jealousy in Bai Yuner's eyes. This meant that either Bai Yuner and Yi Hao had a relationship, or Bai Yuner liked Yi Hao. Otherwise, Bai Yuner would definitely not show such an expression. When Bai Yuner heard Zhao Linger's words, her cheeks immediately turned red. Then, she secretly glanced at Yi Hao and realized that Yi Hao did not hear it. She immediately shook her head shyly. That means that younger sister Yuner likes young Master Yi. I didn't expect young Master Yi to have such good fortune. Zhao Linger continued to hold Bai Yuner's hand and joked. Hearing Zhao Linger's straightforward words, Bai Yuner's face became even redder. But to be honest, young Master Yi is indeed not bad. Younger sister Yuner, you have to keep an eye on him. Who knows, he might be a playboy who hooks up with a bunch of beauties. Zhao Linger joked. Elder sister Ling, what are you saying? He is so powerful. Naturally, many women will fall for him. How can I stop him? Bai Yuner looked at Yi Hao with a trace of worship and worry in her eyes. Bai Yuner's confidence was somewhat lacking. Can the two of you talk about me behind my back? Yi Hao said awkwardly after being called a playboy by the two beauties right in front of him. Let's go. I'll take you to eat something. Yi Hao held each of their hands as he spoke, not allowing them to refuse. Bai Yuner was a little embarrassed when Yi Hao held the two women's hands, but she did not refuse. Zhao Linger was slightly stunned. Then, a smile appeared at the corners of her mouth, but she did not break free either. Are we eating barbecued meat? The two women asked in unison. Yi Hao nodded when he heard the two women's question. It was very easy to find a secluded place in the huge Tianyuan Academy. Not long after, the three of them sat by a small stream. Yi Hao took out some magical beast meat and began to clean it up. The two women began to play around. Not long after, they played in the water. These two girls. Yi Hao looked at the two women's clothes that were wet from the water. Their graceful figures were faintly discernible. For a moment, Yi Hao was not in the mood to barbecued meat. That was because this was simply a blatant temptation. The two women did not think so much at all. After all, Bai Yuner had been in seclusion for several months and was bored to death. She was in a good mood when she saw Yi Hao. Now that she could play happily and relax, of course, she would not waste it. Zhao Linger was even more so. As a princess since she was young, her life was full of intrigue, and she did not have a single friend. And even if she did have a friend, they could not ignore her identity and play around like this. After all, those people approached her with a purpose. Now that there was no one around to play with Bai Yuner, she had completely forgotten all her worries in a short period of time. Young Master Yi, do you want to play with us? Zhao Linger suddenly said with a mischievous smile. Sure. To Zhao Linger's surprise, Yi Hao actually agreed and walked towards her. Don't, I was just joking. Zhao Linger's eyes flashed with a hint of panic. After all, she was just joking and teasing Yi Hao. After all, she had been taught that men and women should not touch each other. It was deeply ingrained in her mind. If not for the fact that Yi Hao had agreed to play with her, and she had been too excited, she would not have suddenly hugged Yi Hao. But now, if Yi Hao really wanted to play with her, she really did not know what to do. Could he really be a pervert? Zhao Linger couldn't help but frown when she saw Yi Hao looking at her. Who are you? Show yourself. But just as Zhao Linger was at a loss of what to do, Yi Hao brushed past her. What? Zhao Linger was obviously stunned as she watched Yi Hao brush past her. You want to run? Do you think you can? In fact, Yi Hao had long discovered that someone was hiding in the forest opposite the stream. Yi Hao was afraid of alerting the enemy, so he used Zhao Linger's words as a bait to brush past the stream and lower the guard of the person hiding in the dark. How did you discover me? The person under the tree opposite the stream was shocked when he saw Yi Hao suddenly appear in front of him. He thought that he had done a very good job of concealing himself. He had even completely concealed his cultivation aura. He still could not figure out how Yi Hao had discovered him. Wearing a set of black clothes in broad daylight. Do you think you are the Black Impermanence? Yi Hao sneered when he saw the person in black clothes. Humph, since you have discovered me, you can go to hell. The man in black looked at his black clothes and did not care about anything else. A cold light flashed in his hand, and he directly attacked Yi Hao's neck. How dare a mere level 9 Devil Emperor try to assassinate? Yi Hao immediately moved when he saw the aura of the man in black. He punched the man in black's wrist, and the crisp sound of bones breaking was heard. Bang! The man in black's arm was broken. The intense pain made him break out in a cold sweat. The dagger fell to the ground with a crisp sound. Chapter 835. You want to run? Do you think it's that easy? Yi Hao used Steps of Gale, jumped up, and punched the back of the man in black. The man in black spat out a mouthful of blood, and he was sent flying like a kite with a broken string. Speak. Who sent you here? Yi Hao looked at the man in black coldly and demanded. You want to know who I am? Impossible. The man in black looked at Yi Hao unwillingly, but his tone was firm. I know him. I've heard his voice before. He's one of the eldest princess men. Zhao Ling walked over and said sternly. When a man in black heard Zhao Ling, his expression changed and he panicked. If that's the case, you can go now. Yi Hao heard Zhao Ling, and was about to punch the man in black. No, don't. When the man in black saw that Yi Hao was about to kill him, he begged for mercy in fear. Wait a minute. He's still useful. Zhao Ling immediately said to Yi Hao, as long as you swear to be loyal to me, I can spare your life. Zhao Ling said, When the black-clothed man heard Zhao Ling's words, a trace of hesitation appeared on his face. When Yi Hao saw the hesitation on the man's face, he couldn't help but say, The threat in his tone was self-evident. The man in black looked at Yi Hao with fear. He quickly swore to be loyal to Zhao Ling. Speak. What's your name? What did the first princess send you here for? After hearing the black-clothed man's oath, Zhao Ling relaxed and asked. Cough, cough. The man in black coughed violently and struggled to stand up. Reporting to the third princess, this lowly one is called Wu Gui. Her Highness the First Princess sent this lowly one to monitor the third princess, Wu Gui hurriedly said. Spying on me? Why are you monitoring me? Zhao Ling asked with a frown. Her Highness the First Princess means that now that the groom selection tournament is approaching, she's afraid that something might go wrong. That's why she sent me to monitor Her Highness the Third Princess, Wu Gui continued. After listening to Wu Gui, Zhao Ling nodded and asked, When did she ask you to report back? Eldest Princess asked me to keep an eye on Third Princess for the next few days. If there's anything unusual, I'll report to her. If there's nothing unusual, I'll stay by your side. Wu Gui replied honestly. All right, you can stay by my side for the next few days. Yes. When Wu Gui heard Zhao Ling's words, he immediately nodded. Seeing that Wu Gui had sided with Zhao Ling, Yi Hao took out a blood marshal pill and tossed it to Wu Gui. This is for you. Heal your wounds first. Cough, cough. Thank you, young master. Wu Gui hurriedly took the pill and thanked him. Although the injuries that Yi Hao had inflicted on him weren't serious, it would take him at least 10 days to half a month to recover on his own. Wu Gui took the pill and immediately swallowed it. He began to recover. Thank you. Zhao Ling looked at Yi Hao and thanked him sincerely. When he thought about how he had misunderstood Yi Hao, Zhao Ling felt a little embarrassed. All right, we're partners. This is what I should do. The barbecue is ready. Hurry up and eat. Yi Hao said nonchalantly. After all, he didn't know who Wu Gui was at first. He thought that Wu Gui had come for him. However, he didn't expect that Wu Gui had come for Zhao Ling. As for capturing Wu Gui, it was a piece of cake. Yi Hao walked over to the barbecue and started grilling it. Is it really just a partnership? Logically speaking, when Yi Hao said this, Zhao Ling should be happy. However, Zhao Ling didn't know why he wasn't happy. Instead, he felt a little disappointed when he heard Yi Hao's words. Sister Ling, why are you still standing there like a fool? The barbecue is ready. If you don't come, it'll be finished. Bai Yun'er suddenly said. Oh, I'm coming. Zhao Ling interrupted his thoughts and quickly walked over. It smells so good. Zhao Ling smelled the aroma of the barbecue and threw all his thoughts to the back of his mind. Gulp, gulp. At this moment, Zhao Ling's stomach started growling. Ha ha ha. Yi Hao couldn't help but laugh when he saw Zhao Linger's embarrassed look. Although Bai Yuner didn't want to laugh, when she saw Yi Hao laughing, she also covered her mouth and laughed. I'm really too hungry. Zhao Linger blushed and explained embarrassedly. Also, you're not allowed to laugh. Zhao Linger said angrily when he saw Yi Hao actually daring to make fun of him. Okay, I won't laugh. Yi Hao looked at Zhao Linger's cute appearance and said with a smile, and you, girl, you actually dare to make fun of me. Watch how I'll deal with you. Zhao Linger finished speaking and scratched Bai Yuner's armpit. Don't, Sister Linger, I was wrong. Brother Yi also laughed. You should teach him a lesson. Bai Yuner quickly smiled and begged for mercy. When Zhao Linger heard Bai Yuner's words, he looked at Yi Hao and couldn't help but twitch his mouth. I'll teach him a lesson. It's good enough that he doesn't teach me a lesson. When he thought of Yi Hao's strength, Zhao Linger knew that he was definitely not a match for Yi Hao. Zhao Linger immediately picked up a piece of barbecued meat and began to eat, looking at Yi Hao while eating. Why are you looking at me? Is it because looking at me is more appetizing? Looking at Zhao Linger's gaze, Yi Hao couldn't help but tease him. Why are you looking at me too? Is there a flower on my face? Yi Hao turned his head and found that Bai Yuner was also looking straight at him. This made Yi Hao feel a little scared. There's no flower on your face, but there's a lot of dust, Zhao Linger said with a smile. Is that so? Yi Hao looked at Bai Yuner doubtfully. When Bai Yuner saw Yi Hao's inquiry, she couldn't help but be stunned. Then, she immediately nodded mechanically. How could Yi Hao not know that Zhao Linger was teasing him? The two of you actually want to gang up and lie to me. Yi Hao put down the barbecued meat in his hand and scratched their armpits. Sister Yuner, run. Zhao Linger grabbed Bai Yuner and began to run, but he didn't forget about the barbecued meat in his hand. Yi Hao didn't use his strength. He chased after them purely, as if he was fooling around. One had to know that since he came to the ancient demons, the string in his mind had been stretched taut. This was also the first time he had relaxed. After all, he had a group of men around him. He couldn't fool around like this, even if he wanted to. Haha, Yi Hao, why don't you chase after us? Looking at Yi Hao behind him, Zhao Linger couldn't help but laugh and provoke him. Wu Guei, who was at the side, was also stunned when she saw this scene. Chapter 836. Yi Hao, you have to come with me to the palace to meet my father. Zhao Linger said to Yi Hao after eating and drinking to his heart's content. Why are you going to meet your parents so early? Yi Hao teased. You wish. Zhao Linger rolled his eyes at Yi Hao when he heard Yi Hao's words. Then why do I have to meet your father so early? Yi Hao looked at Zhao Linger. There were still a few days before the contest for a spouse would begin. Yi Hao didn't want to have too much contact with the emperor of the Tianyuan kingdom. After all, he had attacked the Rain Domain and killed the dean of the Tianyuan Academy. Who knew if the emperor would come looking for trouble with him? Of course, if Emperor Tianyuan really came looking for trouble with him, he wouldn't be afraid at all. After all, with Huangzhong's strength, he could do whatever he wanted in the Tianyuan kingdom. The dean of the Tianyuan Academy is a citizen of the Tianyuan kingdom. Now that he has been killed by your men, I have to report this matter to my father. Otherwise, I'm afraid that there will be trouble, Zhao Linger explained. What? Brother Yi Hao, you actually killed the dean? The dean is so powerful. How did you kill him? Bai Yuner exclaimed in shock when she heard Zhao Linger. When he saw Bai Yuner's shocked and adorable expression, Yi Hao patted Bai Yuner's head. All right, I'll go with you. However, don't blame me if we encounter anything unpleasant, Yi Hao said to Zhao Linger as he patted Bai Yuner's head. After all, if someone wanted to attack him in the palace, he definitely wouldn't sit still and wait for death. Don't worry, my father still dotes on me. Moreover, you killed the dean of Tianyuan Academy. My father should be happy. Zhao Ling was suddenly said with a smile. Looks like there's a story behind this. Hearing Zhao Linger's words, Yi Hao nodded meaningfully. From the very beginning, he had guessed that there must be something wrong. Otherwise, even if Zhao Linger asked him for help, the person he killed was a demon emperor of the Tianyuan kingdom. Zhao Linger didn't care. Logically speaking, the value of a demon emperor was much higher than that of a princess. If Zhao Linger was smart, he would definitely cut ties with her. Otherwise, if the Tianyuan kingdom took action, Zhao Ling'er would not be able to escape the blame. However, from the very beginning, Zhao Ling'er did not seem to care about this matter at all. Moreover, from the fact that the dean of Tianyuan Academy dared to ignore Zhao Ling'er's words and wanted to kill him, it could be seen that the dean of Tianyuan Academy didn't put the royal family in his eyes. Otherwise, no matter what, Zhao Ling'er represented the royal family's face. The dean of Tianyuan Academy could not give him any face at all. This could only mean that there was something fishy going on. It could even be said that there was already a rift between the royal family of Tianyuan Kingdom and the dean of Tianyuan Academy. It was just that both sides knew about it, but did not reveal it. Since this was the case, Yi Hao was even more confident that he could meet the emperor of Tianyuan Kingdom. After all, he had killed the dean of Tianyuan Academy. The emperor of Tianyuan Kingdom should be thanking him. Aside from this matter, there was the Rain Domain. Yi Hao firmly believed that the emperor of Tianyuan Kingdom wouldn't do anything to him because of a mere Rain Domain. Because if the emperor wanted to make a move on him, he would have to consider Huangzhong first. Since the emperor of Tianyuan Kingdom didn't even dare to deal with the dean of Tianyuan Academy, a mere third-order demon emperor, that only meant that the emperor of Tianyuan Kingdom was strong on the outside, but weak on the inside. Their true strength was definitely not that strong. Let's go. Yi Hao looked at the sky and said to Zhao Ling'er, "Oh, okay." Zhao Ling'er quickly got up when he heard Yi Hao's words. Yi Hao handed Bai Yuner over to the various family heads. After all, he didn't know if there would be any danger in the royal palace. It would be inconvenient to bring Bai Yuner along. On the other hand, handing Bai Yuner over to the various family heads would be safer and he wouldn't have to be distracted. Following which, Yi Hao and Zhao Ling'er headed towards Tianyuan City. There was still a certain distance between Tianyuan City and Tianyuan Academy. As for Huangzhong, he was left behind by Yi Hao to protect everyone. Who is it? Yi Hao and Zhao Ling'er rushed for nearly an hour before they arrived at Tianyuan City. However, they were stopped by a group of guards when they arrived at Tianyuan City. They are all devil emperors. Yi Hao couldn't help but sigh when he saw the guards' cultivation. This was the royal palace after all. Even the guards were devil emperors. "It's me." Zhao Ling'er's voice was cold as she took out her identity token. Greetings to third princess." The guards quickly saluted when they saw Zhao Ling'er's identity token. "Let's go," Zhao Ling'er said to Yi Hao, and the two of them walked into the city. After entering the city, the two of them continued to move forward. This was merely the outer city, while the royal palace was located in the inner city. The two of them walked for another half a day before they finally arrived at Tianyuan Royal City. "Who are you?" This is a restricted area of the royal palace. Unauthorized personnel are not allowed to enter. Before the two of them could reach Tianyuan Royal City, the aura of a demon rushed towards them. "How dare you be so impudent in front of me?" Zhao Ling'er said coldly when she sensed the aura rushing towards her. "Third princess." When the demon heard Zhao Ling'er's voice, he immediately retracted his aura and walked towards Zhao Ling'er. "Greetings to third princess." When the demon saw Zhao Ling'er, he immediately saluted. He then looked at Yi Hao and asked, "Third princess, who is this?" "This is my friend," Zhao Ling'er replied. "It is already the night curfew. It is not appropriate for this young master to enter the royal palace." When the demon heard Zhao Ling'er's words, he said awkwardly, "This is my princess token. If anything happens, I will take responsibility." Zhao Ling'er took out her token and said, "Yes." When the demon saw the princess token in Zhao Ling'er's hand, he immediately made way for them. When the demon saw Zhao Ling'er and Yi Hao enter the royal palace, he immediately called for a guard and said, "Go and report to the second princess that the third princess has brought a strange man back to the palace." "Yes." When the guard heard the demon's words, he immediately left. "How is it?" The security of the royal palace is quite tight. After entering the royal palace, Zhao Ling'er looked at Yi Hao and asked. Yi Hao nodded, but did not say anything. Along the way, they saw many patrol teams. Most of them were demon emperors, and a few of them were demon primes. These people were not bad. However, They were useless in front of Yihao. Although the demon primes were more powerful than him, the demon primes were still useless in front of spiritual stones. Zhao Linger brought Yihao to her bedroom and said to Yihao, "Wait for me in my bedroom. I will go and see if my father is resting." Chapter 837. Father, are you asleep? Zhao Ling walked to Emperor Tianyuan's palace and walked directly into Emperor Tianyuan's bedroom. At this moment, a middle-aged man was sitting in front of a desk in the bedroom, dealing with documents. When he heard the noise, he immediately put down the documents in his hands. "You little girl, I knew you would come." Emperor Tianyuan looked at Zhao Ling. Emperor Tianyuan laughed. "Tell me, why did you bring that young man back to the palace?" Emperor Tianyuan looked at Zhao Ling. "I can't hide anything from you, father." Zhao Ling stuck out her tongue. "Haha, someone came to report to me just now." Emperor Tianyuan looked at Zhao Ling. "Oh yes, what's going on at Tianyuan Academy? Why did you send someone back and ask me not to bother about it?" "Father, you should know that the old man, the dean of Tianyuan Academy, is dead, right?" Zhao Ling looked at Emperor Tianyuan. Emperor Tianyuan heard Zhao Ling's question and nodded. "Your people have already told me about this. Father, how are you going to deal with this matter?" Zhao Ling looked at Emperor Tianyuan and suddenly asked. "No matter what, Tianyuan Academy is a force of Tianyuan Kingdom. I have to take a stand on this matter. But Ling, you seem to have your own ideas?" Emperor Tianyuan looked at Zhao Ling and asked with a smile. "What do you think of the First Academy, father?" Zhao Ling continued to ask. "Since they dare to disrespect Tianyuan Kingdom, they should be destroyed." Emperor Tianyuan said sternly. "Father, do you think that the First Academy can defeat Tianyuan Academy in 3 months and kill the dean of Tianyuan Academy? Do you think that the First Academy is so weak? Then our Tianyuan Kingdom is still not to be trifled with. Could it be that we're going to become the laughingstock of the entire world?" "Father, what I mean is, can we let the First Academy take over Tianyuan Academy's position? We can form an alliance with the First Academy. It's impossible for the First Academy to replace Tianyuan Academy." "Father, do you think that I don't know our current situation? Right now, our Zhao family is facing internal and external troubles. We urgently need a partner." "Sigh, I didn't expect Linger to know." After listening to Zhao Ling's words, Emperor Tianyuan's expression turned somewhat desolate. The great ancestor is about to pass away, and the empire is eyeing him covetously. Countless forces in the country are also constantly playing tricks. Emperor Tianyuan felt very helpless in his heart. If not for the patriarch's impending death, the Tianyuan kingdom would not have ended up like this. Although the Tianyuan kingdom still looked peaceful, there were already surging waves in the dark. Tianyuan kingdom would fall into chaos as soon as the patriarch died. Furthermore, his meridians were all destroyed because of a great battle when he was young. In other words, he could not cultivate at all. Furthermore, the hidden injuries that he had suffered over the years were getting more and more serious. At this moment, his physical condition was exactly the same as the country. He was strong on the outside, but weak on the inside. He could be finished at any moment. Zhao Ling's words struck a chord in his heart. "But can you guarantee that the First Academy is not harboring evil intentions?" Emperor Tianyuan asked with a complicated expression. After hearing Emperor Tianyuan's words, Zhao Ling pondered for a moment. Then she thought of Yihao and said, "I believe in him." "Him? You mean the young man you brought back?" Emperor Tianyuan looked at Zhao Ling and asked. "Yes." Zhao Ling nodded and did not deny it. "All right, go now and call him over for Imperial Father to take a look." "Yes, father." After hearing Emperor Tianyuan's words, Zhao Ling's face lit up and she immediately ran out. "Guards, surround the courtyard and catch the assassin." Yihao was still sitting in the courtyard outside Zhao Ling's bedroom when he heard a commotion outside. "Catch the assassin." Yihao could not help but frown when he heard the commotion outside. Besides the eunuchs and palace maids, he was the only one left in the courtyard. In his opinion, there was a 90% chance that the people outside were here for him. However, He did not understand that he had followed Zhao Ling into the palace and was still in Zhao Ling's bedroom. It could be said that besides Zhao Ling, he had not interacted with anyone else. Therefore, he was curious about who was causing trouble for him. Bam! Under Yi Hao's puzzled gaze, the door of the courtyard was suddenly kicked open. A group of guards rushed in immediately. All of them were in the Devil Emperor realm. At this moment, one of the few guards in Zhao Ling's bedroom gritted his teeth and questioned, "Who are you? How dare you barge into the third princess's palace?" Because they also knew that the intruder did not come with good intentions. At this moment, the guards suddenly made way for the intruder. "It's me." A woman wearing a silk outfit walked toward them and said in an icy voice with an expressionless face. Yi Hao looked at the woman. Although she was not as good-looking as Zhao Ling, she still resembled Zhao Ling. She must be one of Zhao Ling's elder sisters, Yi Hao guessed in his heart. When Zhao Ling's guards saw the woman, their expressions changed and they were about to salute her. "The few of you are making a big fuss in front of us. Spare my mood. If you want to live, kneel down and kowtow to me 100 times." The second princess looked at Zhao Ling's guards and wanted to humiliate them. After all, humiliating Zhao Ling's guards was equivalent to slapping Zhao Ling's face. When the guards heard the second princess's words, they all revealed troubled looks on their faces. After all, they were not stupid. When they heard the second princess's words, they knew that the second princess was deliberately humiliating them. Obviously, the second princess was looking for trouble. Their questioning just now was also their duty. There was nothing wrong with it. Moreover, they also knew that the second princess wanted to use them to humiliate Zhao Ling. The more it was so, the more they did not dare to do so. After all, if they did so, they would be able to solve the problem in front of them. However, the humiliation they would bring to Zhao Ling was not something that they could bear. You refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Do you really want me to do it? Seeing the hesitation on the faces of the guards, the second princess snorted coldly. "All of you do it. Teach these ungrateful fools a lesson." The second princess waved her hand and ordered the guards she brought along. Yes, when they heard the second princess's order, the guards roared and were about to attack. "Stop it!" At this moment, Yi Hao suddenly shouted. No matter what, these guards were Zhao Ling's men. He could not let them embarrass Zhao Ling. Chapter 838. Zhao Ling's guards did not kneel before the second princess and embarrass Zhao Ling. If a group of guards did not even care about their master's reputation, then it would be useless to keep them around. However, these guards did not disappoint Yi Hao. Since these guards were Zhao Ling's men, he naturally had to help them. Yi Hao's words naturally attracted everyone's attention. Who is he? He seems to have been brought back by the third princess. Oh no, if anything happens to him, we won't be able to answer to the third princess. Zhao Ling's guards whispered among themselves when they saw Yi Hao. One of the guards immediately walked up to Yi Hao and said, "Sir, you'd better mind your own business. This is the second princess. If you offend her and something happens to you, we won't be able to handle it." "It's all right." Yi Hao waved his hand when he heard the guard's words. He knew that the guard was concerned about him. "Who do you think you are? How dare you make a fuss in front of the second princess?" One of the second princess's guards stepped forward and walked up to Yi Hao to question him. "Your Highness, I think this person is the assassin." Another guard said, "Second princess, please don't misunderstand. This man is the third princess's friend." Zhao Ling's guard said anxiously when he heard the second princess's guard. He was afraid that the second princess would accuse Yi Hao of being the assassin. If that happened, he would be in trouble. "Friend, what evidence do you have?" The second princess sneered and said, "If you don't, then don't blame me for being rude. I don't allow any hidden dangers to exist in the inner court of the palace." Zhao Ling's bodyguard had a troubled look on his face. After all, Yi Hao was indeed brought here by Zhao Ling. However, Zhao Ling left Yi Hao here without giving them any instructions. How are they going to prove Yi Hao's identity? Since he didn't say anything, capture him for me. Kill whoever dares to resist. The second princess sneered when she saw that the guards were speechless. Go! The guards behind the second princess immediately surrounded Yi Hao. Many of the guards activated their martial skills. Seeing that the second princess's bodyguard was about to make a move, Zhao Ling-er's bodyguard immediately said anxiously, "Second princess, you can't." But why would the second princess care about them? The second princess was here to deal with Yi Hao. Although they didn't know Yi Hao's identity, just the fact that Zhao Ling-er brought Yi Hao into the palace in the middle of the night was very suspicious. Therefore, she didn't care about Yi Hao's identity at all. She only wanted to capture Yi Hao. If that didn't work, she could even kill Yi Hao. The second princess's bodyguard would only listen to the second princess. Now that they heard the second princess's order, they naturally took Yi Hao into custody. Zhao Ling-er's bodyguard was extremely anxious at this moment. Do it. Protect this young master. One of Zhao Ling-er's bodyguard suddenly said after hesitating for a long time. Yes. The rest of Zhao Ling-er's bodyguard replied in unison. Since they are courting death, then let's just kill them all. The second princess said in a cold and murderous tone when she saw that Zhao Ling-er's bodyguard actually dared to disrespect her. One must know that with her personality, she would absolutely not tolerate anyone who dared to go against her will. Young master, be careful. Please step back first. Zhao Ling-er's bodyguard said anxiously to Yi Hao. However, Yi Hao didn't step back. Instead, he said nonchalantly, "They are just a bunch of trash. Why should I care about them? What? This brat dares to look down on us." The second princess's bodyguard shouted angrily when he heard Yi Hao's words. "Kill him," someone shouted. All the bodyguards immediately charged towards Yi Hao. Win steps. Seeing the bodyguards charging towards him, Yi Hao's figure flashed. He waved his arms and punched the bodyguards in the face. Bam! 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 Ah! After the sound of the impact ended, there was a series of screams. At this moment, the crowd finally reacted. They saw Yi Hao standing in the same spot. The second princess's bodyguards, who had been clamoring at the beginning, were now lying on the ground and wailing. This young master is so powerful. How did this young master do it? I didn't even see clearly. Everyone was defeated. At this moment, Zhao Ling-er's bodyguards finally recovered from their shock. They looked at the nearly 20 people on the ground in shock. They kept covering their faces and wailing. At this moment, everyone was looking at Yi Hao with shock and admiration. The only exception was the second princess. At this moment, the second princess was frowning. However, she didn't look nervous at all. She looked at Yi Hao seriously. "Who exactly are you?" The second princess looked at Yi Hao and asked, "What does it have to do with you?" Yi Hao didn't even look at the second princess. He didn't give her any face at all. Hiss! Hearing Yi Hao's words, even Zhao Ling-er's bodyguards couldn't help but gasp. After all, in this palace, other than the emperor, the eldest princess and the second princess couldn't be offended. Everyone wanted to curry favor with them. However, Yi Hao didn't give the second princess any face at all. Everyone looked at the second princess anxiously. Indeed, the second princess's face turned even paler. The second princess was also surprised. She didn't expect Yi Hao to be so ungrateful. Her voice became even lower. "Do you know who I am? Who you are is also none of my business." Yi Hao sat back on the stone bench and continued to ignore the second princess. Zhao Ling-er's bodyguards couldn't help but swallow their saliva at this moment. They couldn't help but admire Yi Hao. However, when they saw the second princess's gloomy face, they didn't dare to show too much emotion. "Do you think that you are invincible just because you defeated these trash?" The second princess was furious when she saw Yi Hao ignoring her. "Men, catch the assassin." As soon as the second princess's voice fell, a few figures appeared. "Greetings, second princess." The few figures bowed slightly to the second princess and said, "What orders do you have for us, second princess?" This person entered the palace with unknown motives. "Sirs, please kill him," the second princess immediately said to the few people. Yi Hao looked at the few people and realized that they were demon supremacies. Although demon supremacies were stronger than him, Yi Hao's expression didn't change at all. Yi Hao held the spiritual stones in his hand. If these demon supremacies really wanted to attack him, he wouldn't be polite. When everyone heard the second princess's words, they immediately looked at Yi Hao. When everyone saw Yi Hao's cultivation, they were all stunned. Level 1 Demon Emperor. Chapter 839. Second Princess. Are you sure that he's an assassin? One of the demon sovereigns couldn't help but ask. These people weren't the second princess's subordinates, but the emperor's guards. They usually roamed around every corner of the palace, dealing with emergency matters and maintaining the security of the palace. Why? Are you doubting my words? Hearing the demon lord's words, the second princess frowned. Second princess, please don't misunderstand. It's just that this kid's cultivation is simply too low. The demon sovereign looked at Yi Hao's cultivation and quickly explained. Don't be fooled by him. Look at my subordinates. They were injured by him. The second princess pointed at her subordinates who were wailing on the ground. Looking at the wailing subordinates, it didn't seem like they were faking it. The demon sovereigns frowned even more. After all, they were demon sovereigns. Looking at Yi Hao's cultivation, they knew that he was a level 1 demon emperor. It was impossible for them to be wrong. However, the guards on the ground were injured by Yi Hao. Among them, there were many level 6 and 7 demon emperors. However, these people were defeated by Yi Hao. This meant that Yi Hao's strength couldn't be just a level 1 demon emperor. However, when they looked at Yi Hao's cultivation, they knew that he was indeed a level 1 demon emperor. This seemed to be very contradictory. Kid, these people were injured by you. One of the demon sovereigns looked at Yi Hao and asked, if you want to fight, then fight. If not, wait until Zhao Ling comes back. Yi Hao looked at the demon sovereign and said fearlessly. Looking at Yi Hao's fearless eyes, the demon sovereigns found that they couldn't see through Yi Hao. When Zhao Ling, or his subordinates, heard Yi Hao's words, they looked at Yi Hao in shock. After all, these were demon sovereigns. Yi Hao actually dared to speak in such a way. Many people were looking at Yi Hao with reverence in their eyes. The second princess sneered when she heard Yi Hao's words. Everyone, you've seen it. Such an arrogant person. Quickly kill him. At this moment, many of the demon sovereigns revealed furious looks, because Yi Hao's words made them very unhappy. And after hearing what the second princess said, they wanted to deal with Yi Hao even more. You better think it through. I'm the third princess's guest. If you attack me, you'll have to bear the consequences. Yi Hao didn't rush to use the spirit stones when he saw that the demon lords were about to attack. Instead, he continued. The demon lords originally wanted to attack Yi Hao, but when they heard Yi Hao's words, they hesitated. After all, they were now the emperor's men, so they couldn't side with any of the princesses. If Yi Hao was really one of Zhao Ling's men, and they rashly made a move on Yi Hao, then when Zhao Ling reported them to the emperor, they wouldn't have it easy either. Seeing the hesitation on the demon lords' faces, the second princess became even more displeased. She did not expect that the demon lords would actually be frightened by Yi Hao. This made her lose face. After all, as a princess, how could she not be angry when she was inferior to an outsider? Are you all just going to watch my subordinates get beaten up and not do anything? Do you want me to ask my father for instructions? Moreover, as long as you all kill this assassin, even if something happens, I will take care of it. Seeing that the demon lords were hesitating, the second princess directly used both the carrot and the stick. If it was possible, she couldn't wait to kill Yi Hao immediately. However, with her strength, she couldn't do it. Moreover, her subordinates were all defeated. Therefore, if she wanted to deal with Yi Hao and kill Yi Hao, she could only rely on the demon lords. At this moment, she was already a little impatient. After all, she didn't know when Zhao Ling would return. If Zhao Ling suddenly returned, then it wouldn't be so easy to kill Yi Hao. Boy, I advise you to surrender. In the end, the demon lords still decided to attack Yi Hao. This was because they were now in a difficult position. After all, they were already here and they couldn't turn around and leave. This was because if they left directly, they would definitely offend the second princess. Relatively speaking, between Zhao Ling and the second princess, they were more biased towards the second princess because the second princess was more powerful. Moreover, the third princess wasn't here now. They could totally say that the ignorant were not guilty. However, although they decided to attack Yi Hao, they didn't want to do it directly. Instead, they spoke. In their opinion, if Yi Hao gave indirectly, it would be the best thing for them. However, to their embarrassment, Yi Hao didn't agree to their request. "Ha, you all saw it. This boy is extremely arrogant. He didn't give you any face at all. If you don't kill him, why keep him alive?" The second princess said directly and continued to sow discord. "Boy, blame yourself for being too arrogant. Haha, not much." Second princess, "Are you sure he is an assassin?" One of the demon lords couldn't help but ask. One had to know that these people weren't the second princess's subordinates. They were the emperor's guards. They usually wandered around every corner of the imperial palace, especially dealing with some urgent matters and maintaining the security of the imperial palace. "What? Are you doubting my words?" The second princess frowned when she heard the demon lord's words. "Second princess, please don't misunderstand. It's just that this boy's cultivation is simply too low." The demon lord looked at Yi Hao's cultivation and quickly explained. "Don't be fooled by him. Look at my subordinates, they were injured by him." The second princess pointed at the wailing subordinates on the ground. Looking at the wailing subordinates, it didn't seem like they were faking it. The demon lords frowned even more. After all, they were devil sovereigns, and Yi Hao's cultivation was in the first-order devil emperor realm. There was no way they would make a mistake. However, the guards on the ground were injured by Yi Hao. Among these people, there were many 6th and 7th level demon emperors. However, these people were defeated by Yi Hao. This meant that Yi Hao's strength couldn't be just 1st level demon emperor. However, they could tell that Yi Hao's cultivation was indeed 1st level demon emperor. This seemed to be very contradictory. "Boy, these people were injured by you." A demon lord looked at Yi Hao and asked, "If you want to fight, then fight. If not, wait until Zhao Ling comes back." Yi Hao looked at the demon lord and said fearlessly. Looking at Yi Hao's fearless eyes, the demon lords found that Yi Hao was even more unfathomable. When Zhao Ling's subordinates heard Yi Hao's words, they looked at Yi Hao in shock. After all, these were demon lords. Yi Hao looked at Yi Hao's fearless eyes. They found that Yi Hao was even more unfathomable. Chapter 840. Third Princess, "We are here to catch an assassin," a demon supremacy said as he wiped off his cold sweat. "Assassin? Do you think that my friend is an assassin? Or do you think that I'm an assassin?" Zhao Ling stared at the demon supremacies without backing down. In her opinion, these demon supremacies were not giving her face by attacking her in her courtyard. It was also time for her to establish her prestige. At the same time, she wanted to tell everyone that she was not a pushover. The demon supremacies did not expect Zhao Ling's attitude to be so unyielding. They quickly bowed and said, "We dare not." No matter what, Zhao Ling was the third princess. If Zhao Ling reported this matter to the emperor, they would all be demon supremacies. They were all demon supremacies. Otherwise, they would not feel good. "Royal sister, why is your temper so bad today?" At this moment, the second princess suddenly spoke. "Second sister, imperial sister was just about to ask you why you brought these people to my courtyard." Zhao Ling immediately looked at the second princess when she heard what she said. "This damned girl seems different from before." The second princess looked at Zhao Ling's eyes and her heart sank. In the past, although Zhao Ling was very affectionate with her, she was still polite and respectful to her. However, at this moment, she could not see the slightest bit of courtesy in Zhao Ling's eyes. Instead, there was a hint of hostility in her eyes. The second princess's heart was filled with killing intent. In order to obtain the throne, she could pay any price and eliminate any hidden danger. Previously, Zhao Ling had not shown any intention of fighting for the throne. She had always been aloof from worldly affairs and had left the palace. Even so, she was still worried about Zhao Ling, and had always wanted to eliminate Zhao Ling, Moreover, Zhao Ling made her feel a hint of danger at this moment. The second princess was just about to fly into a rage when a thought suddenly came to her mind. You'll be at my mercy once I'm done selecting a son-in-law for you. The smile remained on her face. Imperial sister, please don't misunderstand. I just discovered an assassin in the bedchamber, so I chased him all the way here. I'm now trying to catch the assassin. I hope you won't stop me. The second princess said to Zhao Ling, second royal sister, you must be joking. How could there be an assassin in my bedroom? You can search as you please. Zhao Ling said indifferently. Really? Said the second princess with a cold smile on her face. She then looked at Yi Hao and said, that assassin silhouette is very similar to this person. I suspect that this person is the assassin. Sister, you have nothing to do with him. Hearing the second princess's words, Zhao Ling couldn't help but frown. The expressions of Zhao Ling's guards also changed. This was because the second princess was now certain that Yi Hao was the assassin. If there was no evidence to prove that Yi Hao wasn't the assassin, he would definitely be charged with the crime of being an assassin. If Zhao Ling were to say that she had something to do with Yi Hao at this moment, the second princess would definitely bite back. After all, she was the third princess. Even if Zhao Ling was the third princess, she wouldn't be able to escape punishment, and the consequences would be unimaginable. Seeing Zhao Ling frown, the second princess sneered in her heart. She looked at Zhao Ling and said, Imperial sister, if you can't prove that he's not the assassin, I'll have to take him away for investigation. But don't worry, Imperial sister. If this person isn't the assassin, I'll let him go. A smug look appeared on the second princess's face. She was sure that Zhao Ling wouldn't be able to produce any evidence. As long as Zhao Ling couldn't produce any evidence, she would be able to arrest Yi Hao. At that time, Yi Hao's life would be completely in her hands. As for letting Yi Hao go, she didn't even need to think about it. As long as she took Yi Hao away, she could easily pin the crime of being an assassin on Yi Hao. It would be impossible for Yi Hao to come back, even if he wanted to. Furthermore, if she made good use of it and executed it perfectly, she could use Yi Hao to frame Zhao Ling for having something to do with the assassin. At that time, it would be a piece of cake to bring down Zhao Ling. She knew that if Zhao Ling wasn't stupid, he would definitely clear up his relationship with Yi Hao. But to her surprise, Zhao Ling said with a smile, I don't know if he's the assassin, but father wants to see him now. What? The second princess's expression changed when she heard Zhao Ling's words. Second royal sister, if you don't believe me, you can come with us. Zhao Ling continued when he saw the smug look on the second princess's face disappear. Then, Zhao Ling looked at the demon venerables and said, If you don't believe me, you can come with me to father to verify it. At that time, it's up to you whether you want to do anything to him or not. The demon venerables looked embarrassed when they heard Zhao Ling's words. What kind of joke was this? His Majesty had summoned Yi Hao. No matter what Yi Hao's identity was, he wasn't someone they could afford to offend. Even if they were given 100 guts, they wouldn't dare to say that Yi Hao was an assassin. Third princess, you must be joking. This is all a misunderstanding, a misunderstanding. The demon venerables immediately said with smiles on their faces, Sir, we apologize for offending you. Please forgive us. The demon venerables said to Zhao Ling, and then to Yi Hao, If there's nothing else, please leave this place. Zhao Ling glanced at the demon venerables and said. The demon venerables couldn't wait to leave this place. Now that they heard Zhao Ling's words, how could they not agree to it immediately? Second royal sister, is there anything else you want to do here? Or do you want to come with me to father's place? Zhao Ling looked at the second princess and said after the demon venerables left, That's fine. I haven't seen father for some time. I can go with you. The second princess still didn't believe it. She didn't believe Zhao Ling's words. Emperor Tianyuan would want to see Yi Hao. Then let's go together. Zhao Ling didn't care whether the second princess went or not. Yi Hao looked at the two of them. They were indeed fighting fiercely. No wonder Zhao Ling resisted. If they were in the palace, only the strong could survive. The weak were destined to be eliminated. It was so sad to have time in the palace. There was no sisterly affection at all. Just by looking at the second princess's attitude towards Zhao Ling, there was no sisterly affection to speak of. The second princess probably saw Zhao Ling as her enemy and couldn't wait to kill Zhao Ling. Yi Hao, let's go. Zhao Ling said to Yi Hao. Yi Hao nodded and left side by side with Zhao Ling. The second princess looked at the guards who were still howling on the ground and said unhappily, "A bunch of useless trash. Hurry up and get up." Chapter 841. Could it be that they are really going to see father? The second princess led her people and followed behind Yi Hao and Zhao Ling. The second princess frowned when she saw that Yi Hao and Zhao Ling were really walking toward Emperor Tianyuan's bedchamber. Who is this person? Have you found out his identity? The second princess asked the guards behind her, whose faces were all bruised and swollen. Please forgive us, second princess. We haven't found out anything yet. We only know that he entered the palace with the third princess not long ago, the guard quickly said. I'd like to see why that brat brought this person into the imperial palace. The second princess had a bad feeling when she thought about how Yi Hao had easily defeated her subordinates. Father, I brought him here, Zhao Ling bowed and said when they arrived at the door of Emperor Tianyuan's bedchamber. Let him in. Emperor Tianyuan's voice came from inside. Let's go in. Zhao Ling said to Yi Hao and led Yi Hao in. Greetings, father, the second princess quickly said when she saw Zhao Ling and Yi Hao enter the bedchamber. Just as the second princess was about to step into the bedchamber, Emperor Tianyuan suddenly said, I have something to do today. If you have something to do, come back tomorrow. What? The second princess froze on the spot when she heard Emperor Tianyuan's words. She was afraid that she had misheard. Did you hear what my imperial father said? He wants me to go back first? The second princess asked her subordinates in disbelief. The second princess's subordinates looked very upset at this moment. However, they still nodded when they heard the second princess's question. Let's go back. The second princess's face was full of anger. She flung her sleeves, glared angrily at the bedchamber, and turned to leave. The second princess's subordinates also chased after them. Son greets imperial father. This is Yi Hao, Zhao Ling immediately said as he looked at Emperor Tianyuan, who was handling official documents. However, Emperor Tianyuan had no intention of looking up at Yi Hao. Yi Hao looked at Emperor Tianyuan. He didn't raise his head. How could he not know that Emperor Tianyuan was trying to intimidate him? However, how could Yi Hao fall for this trick? He directly walked to the side, pulled out a chair, and directly sat on it. Yi Hao, Zhao Ling said anxiously when he saw that Yi Hao didn't even bow and dared to sit down without his father's permission. At this moment, Emperor Tianyuan had a look of astonishment on his face. He wanted to intimidate Yi Hao so that it would be easier for him to negotiate with Yi Hao. However, he didn't expect Yi Hao to not give him any face. He didn't even greet him before sitting down. Outrageous! Emperor Tianyuan threw down the documents in his hands and slammed the table as he shouted angrily. He thought that Yi Hao would restrain himself or at least bow to him. But to his disappointment, Yi Hao didn't even pay him any attention, let alone stand up and salute him. This instantly filled his heart with anger. After all, as the Emperor of Heaven Yuan, everyone who saw him was respectful and reverent. However, Yi Hao was the only one who didn't give him any face. Yi Hao was the only one. Emperor Tianyuan turned his gaze to Yi Hao. He realized that Yi Hao didn't look panicked at all. What trump card does this kid have that he can remain so calm in front of me? Emperor Tianyuan had been an emperor for many years. The aura of an emperor on him was enough to make people feel oppressed. However, Emperor Tianyuan realized that his aura of an emperor didn't have any effect on Yi Hao. Ling, is this the person you brought here? Is he so arrogant? Emperor Tianyuan frowned when he saw that Yi Hao was still ignoring him. He looked at Zhao Ling with dissatisfaction. Zhao Ling was also suffering unspeakably. She didn't expect things to turn out this way. She kept winking at Yi Hao, but realized that Yi Hao didn't even acknowledge her. Zhao Ling was also worried. If she really angered her father, the consequences would be unimaginable. Father, Zhao Ling was at a loss for words. Say no more. Let him go. Emperor Tianyuan waved his hand impatiently. He didn't believe that Yi Hao could remain calm. Since they were talking about a collaboration, he definitely couldn't give in. Now, whoever was more powerful would have more say. However, Yi Hao stood up after hearing his words. He turned around to leave. After all, Yi Hao was only collaborating with Zhao Ling. Why should he care about Emperor Tianyuan's mood? Father, this. Zhao Ling was also anxious. She didn't expect both of them to be so eccentric. Moreover, one of them was tougher than the other. At this moment, she didn't dare to offend either her father or Yi Hao. After all, if she offended her father and Emperor Tianyuan got angry, it would be difficult to deal with. And if she angered Yi Hao and Yi Hao refused to work with her, it would really be over. Therefore, Zhao Ling was caught in the middle. For a moment, she didn't know what to do. Emperor Tianyuan narrowed his eyes and looked at Yi Hao's back. He was really about to step out of the main hall. Stop! Emperor Tianyuan suddenly said in a soft tone, just as Yi Hao was about to step out of the main hall. What? Can we talk now? Yi Hao turned around and asked with a light smile. I'm very curious. Who exactly are you? Emperor Tianyuan asked curiously. You don't have the right to know. Yi Hao obviously didn't treat Emperor Tianyuan as an emperor. It was as if he was talking to an ordinary person. What? If I don't have the right to know, then who does? Emperor Tianyuan suddenly laughed out of anger, as if he had heard the funniest joke. As for Zhao Ling, she was currently covered in cold sweat. This was because, in her opinion, Yi Hao was courting death. After all, in the Tianyuan kingdom, even the former dean of the Tianyuan Academy, an expert at the level of the Demon Emperor, didn't dare to speak to her father like this. At the very least, no one in the Tianyuan kingdom has the right to. Yi Hao glanced at Emperor Tianyuan and said. Emperor Tianyuan fell into deep thought when he heard Yi Hao's words. What appeared in his mind was naturally Yi Hao's identity information, which he had sent people to investigate. However, the information he received was that Yi Hao wasn't from the Tianyuan kingdom at all. It was as if he had appeared out of thin air. However, such a person had so many experts under his command. It was incredible that he could conquer the Rain Domain in such a short time. Later on, Yi Hao established the first academy and defeated the Tianyuan Academy, which had a strong foundation, in just 3 months. Chapter 842. Tell me, what do you want? Emperor Tianyuan asked as he looked at Yi Hao. But when he said this, he felt very awkward. After all, he was the emperor of the Tianyuan kingdom. He was usually the one who ordered others around. Since when did he have to ask others if they had any requests? Most importantly, Yi Hao was still so young. At this moment, Zhao Ling's jaw nearly dropped from shock. Was this still her overbearing imperial father? I don't have any requests. I just want to help Zhao Ling. Yi Hao replied as he sat back in his chair. That's all. Emperor Tianyuan looked at Yi Hao, clearly not believing Yi Hao. Of course, there's also the Tianyuan Academy that she promised me. Then do you know what the Tianyuan Academy represents? Emperor Tianyuan continued to ask after hearing Yi Hao's words. I don't want to know what it represents. I only know that the Tianyuan kingdom can no longer control the Tianyuan Academy with its current strength. Yi Hao shook his head and replied softly. Why do you say that? Emperor Tianyuan's gaze was fixed on Yi Hao, and his voice became somewhat low. Don't you know why? Yi Hao asked with a smile. Emperor Tianyuan didn't say anything else. He stared at Yi Hao and realized that Yi Hao didn't show any signs of weakness in front of him. Looking at Yi Hao's age, it was obvious that this calmness wasn't something that Yi Hao should have. But it was definitely present in Yi Hao. And at this moment, Yi Hao clearly treated him as an equal. He didn't show any signs of inferiority when he spoke to him. Phew! Emperor Tanyuan suddenly exhaled a breath of turbid air. "You're very good. Thank you for the compliment." Yi Hao nodded after hearing Emperor Tianyuan's praise. His expression didn't change much. Because Yi Hao was originally a leader, he naturally understood the mentality of a leader. In front of Emperor Tianyuan, he could not show weakness because as long as he showed weakness, he would be led by the nose by Emperor Tianyuan. However, he absolutely did not like that kind of feeling. Yi Hao was also certain that Emperor Tianyuan could not do anything to him. However, Zhao Ling couldn't understand what was going on. Weren't the two of them still shouting when they started? Why was Imperial Father suddenly praising Yi Hao? The two of them were even being polite. "Little friend Yi, what do you think of my Tianyuan kingdom?" Emperor Tianyuan suddenly looked at Yi Hao and asked. "I don't care what happens to the Tianyuan kingdom. I will only help Zhao Linger fight for the throne." Yi Hao. Zhao Linger's expression changed when he heard Yi Hao's words. Because Yi Hao's words were tantamount to treason. Zhao Linger quickly knelt on the ground and kowtowed to Emperor Tianyuan. "Imperial Father, please forgive me. Yi Hao did not mean it. Linger, get up first. Imperial Father has no intention of blaming you." Emperor Tianyuan immediately waved his hand when he saw Zhao Lingu kneeling on the ground. This was because he knew the condition of his body. In fact, in his heart, he still hoped that the throne would be passed to Zhao Linger. Because of his 3 daughters, he still doted on Zhao Ling. However, Zhao Linger had no interest in the throne at all. This made Emperor Tianyuan very vexed. Now that he saw Zhao Linger showing interest in the throne, he couldn't be more happy. How could he blame Zhao Linger? However, at this moment in the imperial court, no one was optimistic about Zhao Linger. As for the civil and military officials, they were divided into 3 factions. One faction was the eldest princess, one faction was the second princess, and the other faction was neutral. However, Zhao Linger's faction was not neutral. There was nothing he could do about this. After all, as imperial father, he couldn't show too much favoritism. Furthermore, he couldn't force the throne to be passed to Zhao Linger. Otherwise, things would go against his wishes. That would only harm Zhao Linger and hasten the destruction of the Tianyuan kingdom. Therefore, Zhao Linger still had to fight for all of this. At most, he could only secretly support her. Zhao Linger was a little surprised. She didn't expect that imperial father wouldn't blame her. However, Zhao Linger immediately bowed and thanked him. "Thank you, imperial father. Linger, you can leave first. Wait outside the door," Emperor Tianyuan suddenly said to Zhao Ling. "What?" Zhao Linger was afraid that she had misheard. Then, she looked at the two of them worriedly. She looked at imperial father, then at Yi Hao. Her face was full of worry. "Don't worry, imperial father won't do anything to him," Emperor Tianyuan said with a smile when he saw Zhao Linger's worried expression. "Then I'll take my leave." Zhao Linger stuck out her tongue and immediately turned to leave. She didn't forget to glance at Yi Hao. "How do you plan to help Linger win the throne?" Emperor Tianyuan finally asked after seeing Zhao Linger leave. Yi Hao looked at Emperor Tianyuan. "It seems that you really want to pass the throne to Zhao Linger." Emperor Tianyuan nodded and didn't deny it. "Then why do you have to go through so much trouble? Why don't you just pass it to Zhao Linger?" Emperor Tianyuan couldn't help but smile bitterly when he heard Yi Hao's words. "If it was before, I could have done it easily. But now I have to consider the big picture. I can only let the 3 sisters compete for the throne fairly. Otherwise, not only will they refuse to accept it, but the civil and military officials will also refuse to accept it. And with my strength, I won't be able to completely intimidate them." After hearing Emperor Tianyuan's words, Yi Hao fell into deep thought. He really didn't expect the Tianyuan kingdom to be so much worse than he had imagined. Logically speaking, he shouldn't have gotten involved in this mess. But how could he go back on his word? Since he had promised Zhao Linger to help her, he had to do it. "I plan to win the position of the emperor's son-in-law first," Yi Hao said directly. Emperor Tianyuan nodded when he heard Yi Hao's words. Clearly, he agreed with Yi Hao's idea. But then he asked worriedly, "With your strength, Do you have the confidence to win the position of the emperor's son-in-law? Why? Are my opponents all very strong? Yi Hao knew that Emperor Tianyuan definitely knew more than he did. As the saying goes, only by knowing yourself and your enemy can you win 100 battles. In order to understand the strength of his opponents, it was necessary. Emperor Tianyuan heard Yi Hao's question and handed a piece of paper on the table to Yi Hao. These are the more outstanding contestants participating in the emperor's son-in-law competition this time. The information and strength of the 3 contestants were written on the paper. Yi Hao looked at the paper that Emperor Tianyuan handed over. How could he not know that this was something that Emperor Tianyuan had planned from the start? Yi Hao couldn't help but sigh. The older, the wiser. Take a look. Are you confident? Emperor Tianyuan looked at Yi Hao nervously. After all, this would determine whether Yi Hao could become the emperor's son-in-law. If Yi Hao could become the emperor's son-in-law, then only Zhao Linger would have the chance to win the throne. Chapter 843. The 3 of them are quite strong. Yi Hao had to admit, after reading the information on the paper. The 3 people on the paper were only a few years older than him. They were completely qualified to participate in the competition. However, 2 of them were second-order demon venerables, and 1 was third-order demon venerables. They were even stronger and more talented than Chu Feng. Even though it was Yi Hao himself, he still felt the pressure. After all, he was a first-order demon emperor. His opponents were only first-order demon venerables. It wouldn't be a problem for him to fight a first-order demon venerables if he used his full strength. However, it was too difficult for him to fight his second-order demon venerables. As for the third-order demon venerables, he had no hope of winning. Why? Are you not confident? Emperor Tianyuan kept looking at Yi Hao, observing the changes in Yi Hao's expression. However, he noticed that Yi Hao frowned when he saw the 3 people's strength. Not confident? Are you kidding me? Yi Hao couldn't help but laugh when he heard Emperor Tianyuan's words. Don't worry, I'll definitely be the emperor's son-in-law. Yi Hao looked at Emperor Tianyuan and said firmly. Emperor Tianyuan looked at Yi Hao in surprise. He didn't understand where Yi Hao's confidence came from. However, the confidence on Yi Hao's face didn't seem to be an act. All right, I believe you. If you need any help, just tell me. I'll do my best to fulfill your needs. From Emperor Tianyuan's words, one could see how much the Emperor Tianyuan loved Zhao Linger. Emperor Tianyuan's words meant that Yi Hao could freely use the resources of the Tianyuan kingdom. But as for those resources, how could Yi Hao possibly use them? His top priority now was to raise his cultivation. He had to raise his cultivation by at least 2 levels to third-order demon emperor. Only then would he have a chance of winning the competition. And with his cultivation, breaking through 2 levels was easier said than done. And this was within the short span of a month. If it were anyone else, it would be madness to raise their cultivation by 2 levels in a month. It was simply impossible. However, Yi Hao had the system, so there was nothing impossible about it. As long as he was given enough powerful magical beasts to kill, he would be able to gain experience and break through easily. However, with his current cultivation base, killing a Demon King level magical beast would not give him much experience at all. Even killing demonic beasts below the 5th level of the Demon Emperor realm was meaningless. Therefore, in Yi Hao's opinion, only demonic beasts above 5th Order Demon Emperor or even Demon Venerable could arouse his interest. I want to know, where are the demonic beasts above the 5th level of the Demon Emperor realm? Yi Hao looked at Emperor Tianyuan and asked, Magical beast? Could it be that you want to gain experience? But at this time, shouldn't you be cultivating in seclusion? Emperor Tianyuan was very puzzled when he heard Yi Hao's words. At the same time, he was also very shocked. Right now, I need to hone my martial skills and increase my combat experience. Yi Hao could not possibly say that he could raise his cultivation base by killing demonic beasts. So, Yi Hao casually made up a lie. Emperor Tianyuan nodded thoughtfully. If you want to find demonic beasts above the 5th level of the Demon Emperor realm, you should go to the Supreme Demon Forest. Supreme Demon Forest? Yi Hao heard this name for the first time. He could not help but look at Emperor Tianyuan curiously. reloading when I see duplicates. Thank you. These three people are quite powerful. Yi Hao had to admit when he looked at the information on the paper. The three people on the paper were not much older than him. They were completely qualified to participate in the competition. But among them, two were second-level demon venerables and one was third-level demon venerables. They were simply stronger and more talented than Chu Feng. Even though it was Yi Hao himself, he felt the pressure. After all, he was a first-level demon emperor. His opponent was only a first-level demon venerables. If he used all his strength, it would not be a problem for him to fight a first-level demon venerables. But for him to fight a second-level demon venerables, it was a little too difficult. As for the third-level demon venerables, he estimated that he had no hope of winning. Why? Are you not confident? Emperor Tianyuan kept looking at Yi Hao, observing the changes in Yi Hao's expression. But he noticed that Yi Hao frowned when he saw the strength of the three people. Not confident? What a joke. Yi Hao could not help but laugh when he heard Emperor Tianyuan's words. Don't worry, I will definitely be the emperor's son-in-law. Yi Hao looked at Emperor Tianyuan and said in a firm tone. Emperor Tianyuan looked at Yi Hao in surprise. He did not understand where Yi Hao's sudden confidence came from. But looking at Yi Hao's confident face, it did not seem to be an act at all. All right, I believe in you. If you need any help, just tell me. As long as it is within my means, I will try my best to fulfill it. Just from Emperor Tianyuan's words, one could see the extent of Emperor Tianyuan's love for Zhao. Emperor Tianyuan's words meant that Yi Hao could freely use the resources of the Tianyuan kingdom. But as for those resources, how could Yi Hao use them? His top priority now was to raise his cultivation. He had to raise his cultivation by at least 2 levels and reach the 3rd level of the Devil Emperor. Only then could he have a chance to win in the competition for the position of the Emperor's son-in-law. With his current cultivation, it was easier said than done to raise his cultivation by 2 levels, and it was within a short period of 1 month. If it was someone else, it would be pure madness to raise his cultivation by 2 levels in a month. It was simply impossible. However, Yi Hao had the system, so there was nothing impossible about it. As long as he could kill powerful demonic beasts, he would gain experience. It would be easy for him to make a breakthrough. But with his current cultivation, killing demonic beasts at the level of the Devil King would not give him much experience at all. Even if he killed demonic beasts below the 5th level of the Devil Emperor, it would be meaningless. So in Yi Hao's opinion, only demonic beasts above the 5th level of the Devil Emperor or even the Devil Venerable could arouse his interest. I want to know, where are the demonic beasts above the 5th level of the Devil Emperor? Yi Hao looked at Emperor Tianyuan and asked, Demonic beasts? Do you want to gain experience? But at this time, shouldn't you be practicing in seclusion? Emperor Tianyuan was very puzzled and shocked when he heard Yi Hao's words. Now, I need to practice my martial arts and increase my combat experience. Yi Hao could not say that he could raise his cultivation by killing demonic beasts. So Yi Hao casually made up a lie. Emperor Tianyuan nodded thoughtfully and said, If you want to find demonic beasts above the 5th level of the Devil Emperor, you should go to the Supreme Devil Forest. Chapter 844. When Zhao saw that Yi Hao didn't say anything, she had no choice but to follow Yi Hao back to her sleeping quarters. Is third princess in? After a while, the eunuch's voice suddenly sounded from outside the door. Who is it? What's the matter? When Zhao heard the eunuch's voice, she asked in confusion. Third princess, His Majesty has ordered this servant to deliver pills to young Master Yi. The eunuch replied respectfully. What? Deliver pills? When Zhao heard the eunuch's words, she looked at Yi Hao in disbelief. She originally thought that Yi Hao was joking, but she didn't expect it to be true. However, Zhao couldn't understand why her father would suddenly treat Yi Hao so well and even give Yi Hao pills. Bring it in first. Yi Hao saw Zhao gaze and couldn't help but say to the door. Then, a eunuch walked in and respectfully handed a space ring to Yi Hao. Young Master Yi, this is what you need. Everything is here. Yi Hao nodded and accepted the space ring. Why, is there anything else? Yi Hao looked at the eunuch and didn't leave. His Majesty has ordered this servant to remind you to be careful. This servant will take his leave now. After the eunuch finished speaking to Yi Hao, he bowed and left. Be careful? What do you want? After hearing the eunuch's words, Zhao Linger was confused and asked Yi Hao. Nothing much. Let's rest. Yi Hao looked at Zhao Linger and said. When Zhao Linger heard Yi Hao's words, her face instantly turned red. However, she still asked suspiciously, You really don't have anything to hide from me, right? What I have to hide from you? I'm going to sleep first. After Yi Hao finished speaking, he was about to leave the room. Where are you going? Zhao Linger asked when he saw Yi Hao get up. Of course I'm going to sleep. Otherwise, why would I sleep here? Yi Hao rolled his eyes at Zhao Ling. Hearing Yi Hao's words, Zhao Linger's face turned even redder and she immediately closed the door. Yi Hao rubbed his nose and walked to a nearby room. Yi Hao took a look at the things in the space. There were quite a lot of pills. It could be seen that Emperor Tianyuan was quite generous. He was very satisfied with this. Yi Hao glanced at Zhao Ling, Er's room, and realized that Zhao Ling, Er's room, was still lit. He couldn't help but lie down on the bed and close his eyes to rest. After more than 2 hours, Yi Hao realized that there was no more movement in Zhao Linger's room, so he suddenly opened his eyes. Following which, Yi Hao immediately left the courtyard and walked out of the palace. That's right, he hadn't planned on bringing Zhao Linger along. That was why he didn't tell Zhao Linger and secretly left without Zhao Linger's knowledge. It wasn't because of anything else. As long as the Supreme Demon Forest was filled with danger, it would be inconvenient to bring Zhao Linger along. Moreover, after entering the Supreme Demon Forest, he would have to wholeheartedly increase his cultivation and kill magical beasts to gain experience. How would he have the energy to take care of Zhao Linger? Creak! Just as Yi Hao left, Zhao Linger's closed door suddenly opened. Zhao Linger's head suddenly poked out. I want to see what you're up to. Why are you being so mysterious? Following which, Zhao Linger was about to walk out of the room. But at that moment, 2 figures suddenly appeared and landed in front of Zhao Ling. Who are you people? Why are you stopping this princess? Zhao Linger asked coldly as she looked at the 2 of them. Third Princess, Your Highness, His Majesty has ordered us to watch over you and not allow you to leave the room. One of them replied, Why won't he let me leave the room? Zhao Linger frowned and looked at the 2 of them in confusion. This is His Majesty's intention. We subordinates are also following orders. No, I want to see Father. His Majesty said that he's tired and sleeping first. If there's anything, you can go find him tomorrow. No, I want to go out today. After Zhao Linger finished speaking, she was about to forcefully leave. Third Princess, Your Highness, please don't make things difficult for us. The 2 of them immediately stopped Zhao Ling. You. Zhao Linger was so angry that she couldn't leave. She couldn't help but stomp her feet. Third Princess, Your Highness, please go back and rest. Furthermore, His Majesty has already ordered that without his decree, Third Princess, you are not allowed to leave the palace. One of them continued to speak to Zhao Ling. What? When Zhao Linger heard that she couldn't even leave the palace, she knew that even if the 2 of them didn't stop her, she wouldn't be able to leave today. I wonder what Yi Hao and Father are up to. Zhao Linger snorted, then returned to her room and closed the door. Phew! When the 2 guards saw that Zhao Linger had returned to her room, they immediately heaved a sigh of relief. After all, if Zhao Linger wanted to leave by force, they wouldn't be able to stop her. After all, men and women shouldn't have physical contact. Furthermore, Zhao Linger was a princess. If Zhao Linger wanted to leave, they wouldn't dare to touch Zhao Linger. Fortunately, Zhao Linger didn't leave by force. Where did Yi Hao go? Zhao Linger sat in front of the table, frowning as she pondered. This won't do. I must ask Father tomorrow. Zhao Linger realized that the more Yi Hao refused to tell her, the more he secretly left. She was even more curious about where Yi Hao had gone. Furthermore, her father had specially sent people to watch over him. She knew that this was no small matter. After all, her father had never locked her up in confinement since she was young. This was the first time that he had not allowed her to leave. Zhao Linger couldn't wait for the sun to rise so that she could ask her father about what had happened. Reporting to your highness, second princess, that brat seems to be leaving the palace. At this moment, in the second princess's bedroom, the second princess was still awake and listening to a subordinate's report. He wants to leave the palace in the middle of the night? Do you know what that brat talked about with my father? The second princess asked in a low voice. I don't know. At that time, even the third princess was chased out. His Majesty and that brat were alone for a period of time. His Majesty even sent people to give that brat some things. The guard quickly replied. Do you know what father gave him? When the second princess heard that her father had given Yi Hao something, she felt as though her heart was about to jump out of her chest. The second princess couldn't help but ask anxiously. According to my analysis, it seems to be some elixirs. Elixirs? Why would father give that brat elixirs? After hearing the guard's words, the second princess basically believed him. She believed that her investigative abilities would not be wrong in the imperial palace, even if she did not dare to speak for herself in other places. She just couldn't understand why her father would give Yi Hao some elixirs out of the blue. Do you know where that brat is going? Where is he now? The second princess couldn't figure it out and quickly asked. Chapter 845. You can read this chapter tomorrow. Send some men to kill that brat. At the same time, find out what my father said to that brat and why he gave him the elixir. The second princess squinted her eyes and ordered in a deep voice. Your Highness, how many men should we arrange to kill that brat? The guard asked. Too many people will spoil the plan. Send 2 demon sovereigns to kill that brat, the second princess said after thinking for a while. Yes, Your Highness. I'll do it right away. The guard said to the second princess and turned to leave immediately. Zhao Ling, Er's figure appeared in the second princess' mind. She murmured in a murderous tone, My dear sister, you used to be so calm. Why are you suddenly so active now? This is not a good thing for you. Just as Yi Hao walked to the entrance of the palace, some guards immediately blocked Yi Hao's way. Who are you? Stop right there. Yi Hao immediately took out a token. This token was given to him by Emperor Tianyuan. With this token, he would be able to travel freely in the Tianyuan kingdom. Silver Dragon Token. When the guards saw the token in Yi Hao's hand, their expressions changed. Greetings, Your Highness. Please forgive us. All the guards immediately went down on one knee and saluted Yi Hao. There were 3 types of tokens in Tianyuan Kingdom. They were the Bronze Dragon Token, the Silver Dragon Token, and the Golden Dragon Token. Among them, the Bronze Dragon Token was the lowest level. However, seeing the Bronze and Silver tokens was like seeing a rank 3 official. They could control the life and death of some low-ranking officials. Seeing the Silver Dragon Token was like seeing the Prince and Princess with the strength of a rank 1 official. As for the Golden Dragon Medallion, seeing it was like seeing the Emperor himself. Send some men to kill that brat. At the same time, find out what my father said to that brat and why he gave him the elixir. The second princess squinted her eyes and ordered in a deep voice. Your Highness, how many people should we arrange to kill that brat? The guard asked. Too many people will spoil the plan. Send 2 demon sovereigns to kill that brat, the second princess said after thinking for a while. Yes, Your Highness. I'll do it right away. After the guard finished speaking to the second princess, he turned around and left. Zhao Ling, Er's figure appeared in the second princess' mind. My good sister, you used to be so calm. Why are you suddenly so active now? This is not a good thing for you. She murmured, her voice full of murderous intent. When Yi Hao reached the entrance of the palace, some guards immediately blocked Yi Hao's path. Who are you? Stop right there. Yi Hao immediately took out a token. This token had been given to him by Emperor Tianyuan. With this token, he would be able to travel freely in the Tianyuan kingdom. Silver Dragon Token. When the guards saw the token in Yi Hao's hand, their expressions changed. Greetings, Your Excellency. Please forgive us. All the guards immediately knelt on one knee and saluted Yi Hao. In the Tianyuan kingdom, there were 3 types of tokens. There were the Bronze Dragon Token, the silver dragon token, and the golden dragon token. Among them, the bronze dragon token was of the lowest rank. However, seeing the bronze and silver tokens was like seeing a rank 3 official. They could control the life and death of some low-ranking officials. Seeing the silver dragon token was like seeing the prince and princess with the strength of a rank 1 official. As for the highest rank, the golden dragon token, it was like seeing the emperor. Send someone to kill that brat. At the same time, find out what father said to that brat and why he gave him the elixir. The second princess squinted her eyes and ordered in a deep voice, "Your Highness, how many people should we arrange to kill that brat?" The guard asked. "Too many people will spoil the plan. Send 2 demon sovereigns to kill that brat," the second princess said after thinking for a while. "Yes, Your Highness. I'll do it right away." After the guard finished speaking to the second princess, he turned around and left. Zhaoling, Er's figure appeared in the second princess' mind, and she murmured, "My good sister, you were so calm before. Why are you suddenly so active now? This is not a good thing for you." Her voice was filled with murderous intent. Just as Yi Hao walked to the entrance of the palace, some guards immediately blocked Yi Hao's way. "Who are you? Stop right there." Yi Hao immediately took out a token. This token was given to him by the Emperor Tianyuan. With this token, he could basically move freely in the Tianyuan kingdom. The silver dragon token. When the guards saw the token in Yi Hao's hand, their expressions changed. "Greetings, Your Highness. Please forgive us." All the guards immediately went down on one knee and saluted Yi Hao. In the Tianyuan kingdom, there were 3 types of tokens. There were the bronze dragon token, the silver dragon token, and the golden dragon token. Among the 3, the bronze dragon token was of the lowest rank. However, seeing the bronze and silver tokens was like seeing a rank 3 official. They could control the life and death of some low-ranking officials. Seeing the silver dragon token was like seeing the prince and princess with the strength of a rank 1 official. As for the highest rank, the golden dragon token, it was like seeing the emperor. Send someone to kill that brat. At the same time, investigate what the emperor said to that brat and why he gave him the elixir. The second princess squinted her eyes and ordered in a deep voice, "Your Highness, how many people do we need to send to kill that brat?" The guard asked. "Too many people will make things worse. Send 2 demon sovereigns to kill that brat," the second princess said after thinking for a while. "Yes, Your Highness. I'll do it right away." After the guard finished speaking to the second princess, he turned around and left. Zhaoling, Er's figure appeared in the second princess' mind. She murmured in a murderous tone, "My good sister, you used to be so calm. Why are you suddenly so active now? This is not a good thing for you." Just as Yi Hao walked to the entrance of the palace, some guards immediately blocked Yi Hao's way. "Who are you? Stop right there." Yi Hao immediately took out a token. This token was given to him by the Emperor Tianyuan. With this token, he would be able to travel freely in the Tianyuan kingdom. The silver dragon token. When the guards saw the token in Yi Hao's hand, their expressions changed. "Greetings, Your Highness. Please forgive us." All the guards immediately knelt down on one knee and saluted Yi Hao. In the Tianyuan kingdom, there were 3 types of tokens. They were the bronze dragon token, the silver dragon token, and the golden dragon token. Among them, the bronze dragon token was of the lowest rank. However, seeing the bronze dragon token was like seeing a rank 3 official. It could control the life and death of some low-ranking officials. Seeing the silver dragon token and seeing the prince and princess with the strength of a rank 1 official. Chapter 846. You 2 idiots. Yi Hao only realized that the 2 people behind him had been tricking him after circling around a few times. He couldn't help but laugh disdainfully. "Let's go out of the city," Yi Hao said to the black wind leopard. "This lad is finally leaving the city." The 2 of them couldn't help but rejoice when they saw Yi Hao walking out of the city. "We'll take action after we leave the city." When the 2 of them realized that Yi Hao was fooling them, they were furious and wanted to attack him. However, When they saw that Yi Hao was about to leave the city, they couldn't help but suppress the urge to leave the city. The two of them followed closely behind Yi Hao, afraid that Yi Hao would do something else. How is it? The two of you must be impatient after following me for so long. After leaving Tianyuan City, Yi Hao suddenly turned around and said to the two of them, "Lad, are you really not afraid of death?" The two of them weren't surprised when they saw Yi Hao suddenly stop. However, when the two of them saw Yi Hao's calm expression, they couldn't help but look at Yi Hao warily. "Here's a gift for the two of you." Yi Hao threw the 2 spirit coins in his hand to the 2 demon sovereigns. Spirit coins? When the two of them saw that Yi Hao had thrown them spirit coins, they couldn't understand what Yi Hao was up to. The two of them looked at the spirit coins warily and immediately dodged them. Clang! The spirit coins fell to the ground with a crisp sound. The two of them stared at the spirit coins, but nothing happened to them. "Lad, how dare you trick us?" The 2 demon sovereigns were furious and wanted to attack Yi Hao. "Kill this lad and report back." All right. The 2 demon sovereigns had a simple conversation before they attacked Yi Hao. Seeing the two of them charging at him, Yi Hao didn't dare to fight back. After all, he was very clear about his own strength. He was definitely a match for the 2 demon sovereigns. Yi Hao took a step back and threw out a handful of spirit coins. However, this time, the two of them did not care about the spirit coins at all. They directly charged forward and attacked Yi Hao. Yi Hao was overjoyed when he saw their actions, but his body still retreated immediately. "You bastard, you can't escape." Seeing Yi Hao retreat, one of the demon sovereigns sneered proudly. Because just by looking at Yi Hao's speed, they knew that he was no match for them. Rumble! Just as the two of them were about to kill Yi Hao with a single blow, the spirit coins that Yi Hao had thrown out suddenly exploded. Bang! Bang! Puff! The two of them turned into 2 afterimages and flew out. Their bodies were torn apart, and blood gushed out of their mouths. At this moment, both of their eyes were filled with shock and confusion. They did not understand why the spirit coins would suddenly explode. Then, the two of them looked at Yi Hao as if they had seen a ghost. "Could it be that you did something?" "Haha, it's too late for you to know now." Seeing that the two of them had completely lost their fighting strength, Yi Hao could not help but laugh. "Tell me, who sent you?" Although Yi Hao had guessed that the two of them were most likely sent by the second princess, he still asked. If you want to know, there's no way." The two of them could not help but have a look of determination. "If you don't want to say, then die." Yi Hao punched out with both fists and instantly shattered their heads. Ding dong! Congratulations to the host for killing a rank 3 demon sovereign warrior. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 70,000 experience points. Ding dong! Congratulations to the host for killing a rank 3 demon sovereign warrior. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 70,000 experience points. After Yi Hao finished killing the two of them, he immediately jumped onto the black wind leopard and continued to head towards the Emperor's fallen demon forest. As for the 2 corpses, that was none of his business. In this wilderness, they would probably become food for the demonic beasts before they could be used. Strange, why haven't those 2 people returned yet? The second princess could be said to have a sleepless night. It was almost dawn, and the second princess had not fallen asleep yet. "Not good, princess." At this moment, the second princess's personal guard suddenly walked in. Seeing that the guard's expression was not good, the second princess could not help but frown and ask, "What's wrong?" "Second princess, the people we sent out were killed." The guard hurriedly finished, but did not dare to look directly into the second princess's eyes. "What did you say?" Bang! Hearing the guard's words, the second princess immediately shouted angrily. She directly slammed her palm on the table beside her, and the heavy table instantly shattered into pieces. Anger is harmful to the body. "Second princess, please calm down." Seeing that the second princess was angry, the guard hurriedly advised. Those were 2 demon sovereigns. Why couldn't they kill that brat? Instead, the 2 of them were killed. The second princess was still unwilling to believe it. With the strength of 2 demon sovereigns, they actually could not kill Yi Hao and even lost their lives. "Princess, I suspect that there should be someone secretly protecting that brat." The guard analyzed. Hearing the guard's analysis, the second princess also nodded her head in agreement. After all, she still did not believe that Yi Hao could kill 2 demon sovereigns. Send someone to continue investigating that brat's identity and his goal. I want to see what that brat wants to do. The second princess continued to order the guard. This journey is really far. Yi Hao sat on the black-winged leopard and rushed for nearly 3 days to reach the emperor's fallen devil forest. Yi Hao could not help but murmur. One had to know that if he were to walk such a long distance alone, he would probably be exhausted to death. Fortunately, the black-winged leopard had been with him for these 3 days, reducing his burden by quite a bit. Yi Hao's first goal was not to directly enter the emperor's fallen devil forest, but to first go to a small town in the periphery of the emperor's fallen devil forest. This small town was called Clearwater Town, and it was a famous town in the periphery of the emperor's fallen devil forest. The town was full of mercenaries. These mercenaries would usually accept missions in order to obtain some rewards. Of course, there were even more people who would enter the emperor's fallen devil forest when they had nothing to do and hunt magical beasts to make a living. And even more people entered the emperor's fallen devil forest to seek opportunities to soar to the heavens. After all, everyone knew that not only was there danger in the emperor's fallen devil forest, there were also abundant resources. As for whether or not one could obtain those abundant resources, it completely depended on one's luck. If one accidentally discovered a powerhouse's cave abode or a powerhouse's cultivation area, that would really soar to the heavens. Therefore, even though the emperor's fallen devil forest was filled with countless dangers, there were still people who entered without fear of death. And this Clearwater Town was the supply station for these people. In Qingshui Town, every martial artist could buy some medicinal pills or weapons that they needed, and many mercenaries lived on the tip of a blade every day. Therefore, if they were not careful, they might die in the emperor's fallen devil forest. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.